Hello and welcome to Two Banks of Four podcast, episode 5, with myself, Harry Moore, and a co-host that you're not usually used to hearing is Tom Atkinson. Tom, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. It's nice to be on the podcast.
So yeah, the usual co-host, Tommy Ratibb, he's not being able to make it today, unfortunately. And with that, we're going to do a special episode in the sense it's going to be a lot longer than an hour, and it's going to be something that we chose to do as it's the international break, the second one so far this season. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a season review so far. So we're nearly a third of the way through the Premier League campaign for the 1920 season. We're just going to go through each team, Arsenal all the way down to Wolverhampton Wanderers, and have a little look at maybe their best player so far, a rating out of 10, how good they're doing in terms of where we think they should be this season so far, and also having a look at the worst and shock player that they've had. By shock player, what we kind of mean is a player that we didn't expect to be doing so well, or possibly a player we didn't expect to be doing so bad, or just a shock story overall. So maybe the Longstaff brothers from Newcastle United, as an example, we didn't expect them to be doing the things they're doing, like Matty Longstaff scored against Man United last week. Nobody expected that, so we kind of class it as a bit of a shock. So yeah, as I said before, we're with Tom today. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you.
So, Tom, you're a Liverpool fan. A few quick questions before. You've been a Liverpool fan all your life, is that correct?
That is.
If you had to pick a moment out of your life supporting Liverpool, what moment would stick out to you personally as the one where you look back and think, yeah, that was really, really good, that was quality?
Well, it has to be obviously the Champions League this year. Having watched Liverpool all my life, the only real trophy I've seen them win, bar the League Cup in 2012, was this trophy. And obviously overturning the 3-0 deficit against Barcelona to win 4-3 and get us to the final was something magical, so it has to be that, really.
Yeah, watching that game, I think a lot of people watching that game would have agreed. That game was something else, really. So we're going to start off with Arsenal in this Premier League review anyway. Just want to say again, anyone who's watching this, thanks for all the support we've had on the videos so far. It was unbelievable. We're on to 2,300 viewers overall now, which, as we said at the start, we did not expect anything like this to take off as it has. Just want to give a quick shout out to everyone at Christopher White Language College Sixth Form this past week who supported the Are You Subscribe campaign that we went around the Sixth Form doing. You probably saw that video at the start of this episode. Got a few people from the Sixth Form to show their support. So thank you to anybody who got involved with that. And yeah, here we go. Premier League season review so far. So we're going to start off with Arsenal Football Club, a team that invested heavily in the summer, much more than people thought they would. They brought in a few players along the lines of Dani Ceballos on loan from Real Madrid, Nicolas Pepe for a big price of 70 million euros. So Tom, you're going to give us a bit of lowdown on Arsenal so far and what you think they could have done and their players that have performed and haven't performed so far this season.
So as you mentioned on a few of the names there, I do think that they have had an impact on the squad. So obviously they are third in the league on 15 points, and quite clearly it shows how well they are doing. They're just 1 point off Man City, who are in second place. And I do think they've had a strong start. However, to me the defence does seem to be the weak point in the squad.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Obviously at the moment they're playing Maitland-Niles, Socrates, Louise and Kolasinac. Now, although this is to me a weak back four, they have still got Tierney, Chambers and Bellerin to come back. And to me, when they do come back, they will be vital to challenge the top four, possibly the league, but I think it really does depend how Liverpool carry on.
I think with the league for Arsenal especially, it's going to take a few years, because that's a young defence, and if you're including Rob Holding as well, the average age of that defence can't be much more above 20, so it's a team that's going to have to get used to and grow together. Maybe a star name like a Van Dijk level player should be signed for Arsenal. I think that 70 million on an attacker wasn't needed. I think that they've got that, their attacking force. They scored a lot of goals last season. I just think the back four should have been their priority, and they've bought players like Tierney in, and they're obviously relying on Bellerin hitting the heights that he can do when he gets back. But overall, their defence should grow. So what else we got on Arsenal?
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I mean, to be fair, I don't think we can knock their defence, because at the end of the day, they are still third in the league. They're 1 point off City, as I mentioned before. So I don't think they're doing a bad job. But I just think when they do get those players back, they really can improve really and really push City, I think, to the limit, because as we see in the moment, they're not on form. Also, I've just touched on really the captaincy. So recently we have seen that Xhaka was named the Arsenal captain. Now, to me, didn't.
It's a debatable decision.
I did not understand this decision.
It's a very debatable decision.
I mean, first off, I think we need to look at it, and in my opinion, he's quite a poor player. I don't really rate him as a player, and leadership qualities in the team to drive the team forward, someone to pick them up when they need it. I just don't think he possesses it.
When I look at Granit Xhaka, I don't know about you, but I see him as a walking yellow card.
No, I completely agree.
I see him as a walking yellow card and a potential long shot. I don't see what he brings to the team. His big moment this season, obviously, he'll be known for his penalty giveaway against Spurs.
Exactly.
I mean, if that doesn't sum it up, I don't know what does. He's a bit reckless. He passes sideways. He doesn't look like he can pick a ball out like most of the creative midfielders can. The thing with Xhaka is I can't really work out if he's an attacking midfielder or not, if he's a defensive midfielder or not. He does just give away the yellow card stupidly though, and I don't see how a guy like that can be captain. When I think of a captain, I look at a player people want to look up to. For Liverpool, I know Van Dijk sometimes gets the captaincy when Henderson isn't playing. If you're a Liverpool player, Van Dijk is someone you look up to. Henderson is someone you look up to. They've been in the game a while. For Xhaka, are the other Arsenal players looking at Xhaka and thinking, I want to be like him? He's the man I want to be like? I don't think they are.
No, I completely agree, exactly. I just don't... Again, these qualities that you just touched on there that a captain should have, he just really doesn't possess it. As we said, you need someone who has the drive, the passion for the team. Now, to me, looking at the other players, I'd be looking at someone like Bellerin. I think he is a good player. And also, even to the point, we've touched on this before, I know he's young, but someone like Maitland-Niles, I think a lot of the young players nowadays, when they come up into the team, they're the ones who have more as the passion. I think a lot of the players now who have been in the game a long time are playing because it's their job. I mean, you look at a lot of the Arsenal players. I said I really don't think they have the... I know I keep saying this word, but it's the passion for the team. Are they playing for the badge and for the fans?
And that's something you feel that Bellerin possibly does have. He's a youngster. He's came through their academy. He knows... Well, I say he's come through their academy. He joined at a young age. He knows what the club's about. He almost has a Cockney accent, even though he's Spanish. I mean, he knows exactly what the fans want, and you can see in his vlogs. He uploads vlogs on YouTube. Bellerin does, and he's been working incredibly hard to get back from injury. So you just hope he can have a run in the team like he did when he first kind of came onto the scene. And you've got to look at him as a potential captaincy role, I guess, like a potential captaincy figure. I mean, if you also look at Maitland-Niles, like you said, he's young, he's English. He also came up through the academy. He's been playing in a position that he doesn't even play for the majority of the season, last few seasons he's played. I think he's got to be in the mix. Surely he's an Englishman. He's one of very few Englishmen at the club. One of the only Englishmen on the pitch at some stages. So I think you've got to throw his name into the hat.
I completely agree, and I think the difference is he loves the club, and I think that's something which is vital in today's game, really. But another person who I do think is definitely loving the club, is definitely my best player who I've put for the team so far, which is Aubameyang. So Aubameyang so far has got 8 goals in the league and created made chances for everyone else as well. So I don't think he's just a selfish player, but I think him being at the at the top of their attack, he's really leading them forward at the moment. I think the position where they are at the moment is down to him as well. Not only I think is he a player who you can have on the pitch to help with the rest of the team, whether it be in the midfield or defending. I think if you need a goal, I think he is that player. He's the guy. I think there's a lot of players now in the league, and strikers even, where you bring them on to get a goal, they can't do the job, or when they're on the pitch, they're not effective. Aubameyang, he's clinical, I think, most games,
very,
really.
Very clinical. If Arsenal are looking for a goal, as you say, he's the man they're going to turn to. Lacazette's obviously got a goal in him, but we saw that season last year when Aubameyang tied golden boot with Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. Lacazette was getting all the assists from him, and Aubameyang was the one banging in the goals. When he's on the pitch, you've got a chance. Even if you're defending horrifically, you've got a chance because Aubameyang will put the ball in the back of the net. You know what I mean? So overall, I think Arsenal have got it right going forward. It's just defensively they're a bit shaky, and it'd be interesting to see how they do against more of the top 6 later on down the season.
Yeah, I completely agree, and because of that, really, the position needed that I've done for Arsenal, who I think they need to invest in January. Of course, I have put a centre back. Now, to me, David Luiz is such a liability at the back. I mean, I'm not being rude. You don't know where to start with him.
Yeah, I think it was a weird sign in the first place. I know a lot of Arsenal fans were just happy that they got a centre back, but overall, I think he is a liability. I've always thought he's had a mistake in him, even at PSG, Chelsea. I think he has always had a mistake in him. It'll just be interesting to see if he can fix these mistakes, because we saw him against Liverpool and he had a disaster class earlier on the season. So it'll be interesting to see if he can maintain his place, especially when some of the younger English players start breaking through.
I mean, recent years we've seen Arsenal, they've had defensive problems anyway, and I thought the summer, especially the season Mustafi had last year, was a chance for them to bring in a centre-back. And I'm not going to lie, to me I thought if they get a centre-back in, I'm not saying they could, challenge straight away for the league, but I thought they can do a better job than they have done. Bringing in Louise, I just didn't see it. I didn't understand why they were doing it, and I just thought it was a complete ridiculous decision, really. So again, in January they need to get, I think, a proper centre back in. I think a lot of people could argue a centre back can't change a team, but as a Liverpool fan, it goes back. Van Dijk has changed the team,
especially with the attack. I was just about to say to you, do you think there's a lot of similarities with Arsenal and Liverpool?
Completely.
In the sense that if Arsenal went and spent 80-70 million pounds on a centre-half and changed their defence, they could follow in Liverpool's footsteps and be where they are now.
Well, you look at Liverpool a few years back, we had our front three, midfield was alright, and then you got to defence, we had Klein, Moreno, Lovren and Matip. Now Matip I think has came on, however, but you look at the rest of that defence, and with Karius or Minglet in goal, and it was just ridiculous really. And then we started building it up bit by bit, and then as soon as we got Van Dijk in, it really did instantly change. I mean, you look at the stats now, we haven't lost Anfield in nearly 2 years. We're now title challengers. We're top of the league at the moment, obviously. I mean, I really do think he's not only moulded the defence, but he's just calmed down the team. The passes he's playing, he links it all up. And again, as we said earlier, he's a leader on the pitch, which is crucial, really. And again, it's another reason why Arsenal need another centre-back, I think. Someone to command that defence, command what's going on, and, tell everyone else on the pitch where they should be, what's going on, and just really just change the team, because I think that's the main thing I think they need at the moment.
For you, who's been Arsenal's surprise package so far? Who's been the player that nobody either heard of or nobody saw having such a good season?
Now, the person who I've wrote down actually is came up very recently, or in the last few weeks even, is Saka. 18 years old. So to me, it's got to be the Frankfurt game. 1 assist, 1 goal. He's got his emergence into the Prem. And, what these youth players are showing is that new liveliness, the passion into the game. And I think that's something which is very influential, and I think it's really changing a lot of the teams nowadays in the Premier League. I think it adds just something different, really, and him coming in today, he's probably got new ideas as well that he's been learning from from younger, really, and something that he wants to put into the game and change the team. And I think his coming into the Premier League in a lot of the matches, I think we will see his name a lot more throughout the season. I think by the end of the season, he will definitely be more well known along a lot of the people, and I think a lot of teams will be looking at him as well, actually, when it comes into the next few years.
So moving on to our second team, it's going to be Aston Villa. Obviously we're going in alphabetical order, so it makes sense. With Villa, I think it's been one of those seasons so far where overall Villa fans will be happy. It's been a steady start to the season, and the points return's been alright. They've played well in every game except for the Crystal Palace game, but obviously in that Crystal Palace game, lots of Villa fans will claim that they got robbed by the referee Kevin Friend, which I stand by Villa fans and agree. I agree they did get robbed by Kevin Friend. It was a absolutely terrible decision. They've led against the likes of Arsenal. They've led against the likes of Spurs. These are top clubs, top 6 clubs. They've held their own against. They've beat Everton. They've drawn against a very good Burnley side this season. They could have easily won that. They dropped points against Burnley as well. They've recently beat Norwich by 5-1. I think Villa are showing a lot of signs this season. Obviously, they spent a lot of money in the summer, but they've also managed to maintain on some of their key performers from last campaign in the Championship. The guys who got them up.
Sorry, what I just want to say, what was your opinion? Start of the season, there was a lot of speculation. Looking at Villa, as you said, they were one of the highest spenders in England, in Europe, nearly up to 10 signs or whatever. Everyone thought basically it's going to be the new Fulham. Did you think this as well or not? Or was it something different?
I didn't think this purely because you look at the players we've got in. A lot of them, Dean Smith has seen before, been working with. I think Fulham went out there and they spent for the hell of it. I thought we bought really wisely. I thought the players like Konsa, he's been at Brentford with Smith before. I think Jota, he's been at Brentford with Smith before. Smith knows these kind of players. You look at some of the lads we've bought in the middle. Douglas Luiz, Pep Guardiola was absolutely fuming he couldn't keep Douglas Luiz because obviously Luiz didn't have a work permit and there was a regulation where you had to play at a certain number of countries or something along those lines. Therefore, we were allowed to sign him. Pep Guardiola even said to Dean Smith at the pre-season managers conference where all the managers in the Premier League get together, he even said that Smith will be delighted with the player Douglas Luiz, and we're seeing that. He's obviously a kid with a lot of talent. Going forward, the likes of Wesley, he's been scouted for years. Bourne Engels is a player I'll be touching on in a minute, but he's very much been a player Smith has looked at throughout the season. So no, in response to that question, I don't think I'll ever worried about us doing a Fulham because we've kept the core of our team as well. The likes of Grealish, McGinn, Codger, Mings. These players are essentially the lads who got us up last year. So overall, no, I didn't worry about that. Looking at a rating out of 10 for Villa so far, I'd give them a 6. And after what I just said, a lot of people might be a bit confused by that. It's just because of the way that they haven't been able to hold out games, it would be unfair to give them any higher. If they'd have held out these games, they could be a lot higher in the league. I think 15 is a very unjustified position for them in the league table right now. They could be a lot higher, but because of them not being able to hold out these games, I give them a 6. So that doesn't reflect how I think they've played as such. I think it reflects how I think they are, where they are in the league to where they should be. As the player that's disappointed for me, I'm going to say Jack Grealish. And before the Villa fans start typing away on their phones, going mad at me, I think this is justified. I think if you go through the regular starting 11, obviously Jota hasn't been a great performer, but can you say Jota's disappointed when no one expected him to be amazing in the first place? I think a lot of people expected Jack Grealish to come up into the Premier League and take it by storm. Let's be honest. Be completely honest with yourself. He hasn't done that.
You know what? I do completely agree with you there. I think, to me, when the first signs that I saw this season of Grealish was I think it was in your first game against Tottenham, and I can't remember whether it was the first goal or second goal for Spurs, but Grealish picked up the ball on the edge of the area, and he just turned around, and he was basically walking with the ball on the edge of your area, looking up for the pass, and straight away intercepted, ball straight through, and they scored. And I think that's a classic example. In this league, he does not have the time he did, and I think in that way he just needs to adjust.
But here's the thing: I think he's kind of grasped that and he's learning. Even though I've just criticised Grealish, these last few games against Burnley, Norwich, I think he has came on massively. I think he's been one of our best performers in these last 2 games, especially against Norwich. He's been pulling the strings a lot more. Obviously, he got his first Premier League goal since our last Premier League campaign. Just last week against Norwich, and he has been improving these last few games. I think it's just the reason I put him as most disappointing is who else can you put? He has been the most disappointing. A lot of Villa fans were getting aggy with him towards the start of the season, and that brings me on to my second thing. The best player so far is his probably best mate. If you see him on social media, it's John McGinn. And any Villa fan you speak to, if they've got an ounce of sense, they'll say John McGinn's our best player because he is. Him and Tyrone Mings, it was so hard to pick between the two of them because Tyrone Mings will head anything that is in the air. He'll put his head in front of everything. Whereas John McGinn, he can drop the shoulder, he's strong on the ball, he knows where the back of the net is. He's already got 2 goals this season. Might be 3 actually.
I think it might be 3.
Yeah, it is 3. He got one against Spurs, got one against Arsenal, and got one against Burnley. He also got an offside one against Burnley. But either way, he knows where the back of the goal is. He can find a through ball, and I think what a lot of Villa players would love about Grealish playing with them is the fact that he's just a workhorse in the middle. Sometimes the team needs that. He'll pick up the ball on the edge of our own box, and you'll be on the edge of the opposition's penalty box before you know it, because he'll get the ball and you ain't getting it off him. He'll run with it for days. I know Villa fans joke about him being able to run miles and miles, because he probably can. The bloke is an absolute tank. Overall, my shock player has got to be Bourne Engels. Lots of people let this one go underneath the mat, I guess. When we were bringing in all these players, lots of big money players. We bought Born Engels in from Rennes. Very, very unheard of from our fan base. Maybe he was heard from other European football fans, possibly. But a lot of Villa fans hadn't heard of him, and it was for a fee of around £8.59 million. For the money we've been throwing around, that wasn't an awful lot. So everybody let it kind of go under the radar. And when Villa fans were given their predicted lineup so far this season, he wasn't in any of them. It was Konsa alongside Mings, and that is not what's happened. Engels has started every single game, and he has been absolutely quality.
So, do you believe, after seeing him in the first game that he played, did you think straight away, I'll keep him in?
I thought
like him.
We've got a player here. I genuinely thought, after watching him at Spurs, we've got a player here. Him and Mings have got a partnership that I really, really like. I really like the partnership between Engels and Mings. I think it's absolutely quality. They both seem to know each other's game, read each other's game. Both able to use the ball with their feet, which I think is key in a Dean Smith side. Tyrone Mings is one of the best passing out the back centre halves you've got in the country right now. And a lot of players people will go against me when I say that. But it's facts. And Born Engels is just as good. They play out the back. They both throw themselves in front of anything, and they're not scared to make a last-ditch tackle. So you can't fault Born Engels so far. And I think the reason it's a shock is because so many people doubted him. And he's turned out to be one of the best performers so far. Lastly on Villa is a position needed improving. And I'm going to say striker purely because I think our firepower up front is a bit of a concern. We've got Wesley, he's been under a lot of criticism, but he did score 2 against Norwich and could have had a hat-trick, which he was very unlucky with. But going forward, if he was to get injured, we'd have Jonathan Codger and Keenan Davis as our front two. Lots of Villa fans will agree, Keenan Davis is very good at everything he does, except for finding the back of the net. He can hold the ball, he can drive the ball, he doesn't know where the back of the net is. Right? Jonathan Codger, does he know how to play Premier League football? Is he at that level? We're yet to see. He came on against Spurs as a substitution. He's featured a few times, but apart from that, he got injured recently and hasn't played. So having him as your only man up front would be a bit of a concern. So in January, if I was the Villa board, I'd be openly going out there looking for a goal scorer just in case Wesley gets injured.
So, in your view, is there anyone in particular or any sort of player you would target? I mean, Divock Origi, I think, is a class striker, realistically. I mean, he showed it last season. Would you take him at Villa? I'm not saying I want to get rid of him, but I'm just saying,
Absolutely.
could you see him there?
I'd take Divock Origi in a heartbeat. I think he's a class player. He showed it in the Champions League last year. He stepped up on the biggest stage. He got himself a Champions League final goal. But is he the kind of player we need? I'd say so, yeah. I mean, it's just another option going forward, isn't it? Here's the thing. I don't think Divock Origi would be a Smith-style player. You look, last year we had Abraham. Very big, very tall. Got the ball, played it off. This year we got Wesley. Similar stature, similar size. Would Divock Origi be able to do that job that Abraham and Wesley do so well? Who knows? We'd have to see. But overall, yeah, 6 out of 10 for Villa. I think it's been a solid start, which can be built on massively. So, moving on from Villa, next up we've got Bournemouth. Bournemouth are a side that came up a few years ago now, and they seem to have really established themselves as a Premier League club. They play football the right way. They've maintained their manager, Eddie Howe, who took them from the depths of English football right to the top. They've brought in some players, questionable price tags here and there, but overall I think it's been some good investment. So, Tom, talk us about Bournemouth.
Yeah, exactly. I think Eddie Howe is a exceptional manager. Really, I think like I said, he's taken him to heights which I don't think anyone at the club would have thought of a few years ago. They're 10th in the league at the moment, 11 points. They've won 3, drawn 2, and lost 3. I mean, they're level with Spurs. I know Spurs aren't exactly on form, but to say after 8 games they'll be level with Spurs is something which I don't think anyone would have thought, really. So for me, I put down their best player this season so far as Ake. So in all the games he's played so far, he's got 1 goal. He's had 35 duels won, 1 assist, 35 clearances, and 338 passes. Now, to me, that stat right there with the passes, and that shows what kind of centre back he is. He's happy to play out the back, which I think is very important in modern football, really. All the teams are trying to do it now, and it just clearly shows how he can do it. And I think the way Bournemouth are going, he's really vital in them keeping up with that, because he's really solid at the back. He keeps the team shape, and I do think he's actually quite a leader on the pitch as well, organising the rest of the defence as well as the midfield. So that's, to me, why I've put him as my best player. Now, opposite to that, the disappointing player, to me, there's only one option, and that was Dominic Solanke.
I have to agree, yeah.
I mean, 8 appearances this year. He's had 4 shots on target, no goals, no assists. Quite clearly, he's no threat at the end of the day. He's no threat to the opposition team. He's no game changer. You know, if you're Bournemouth, he's on the bench, let's say, you know, you're looking for a goal. It's 1-0 to the opposition. You need a last minute goal, whatever. And you look at your bench, you got Dominic Solanke. Do you really look at him and think, you know what, that's a game changer, I can bring him on and score?
When you were watching him at Liverpool, and Liverpool fans, feel free to comment on this, but when you were watching Dominic Solanke at Liverpool, did you look at him ever and think, you're a prospect, or you're going to be a top player one day? Or were you quite happy for the price tag you got from Bournemouth for him?
Honestly, no. You know, we got him from Chelsea, and to me, he from a start, well, he never even played for a start off, but when he did, I don't think I saw anything in him which made me go, wow, you know what, this kid could have something. I mean, you look at some of the other players we've got coming up. You know, Ryan Brewster, I think, is a class player. You've got Harvey Elliott as well. These players I look at and I think, you know, you've got something here. You could have something in the future. Dominic Solanke, I never saw it. And for the price tag we got, at the end of the day, we were laughing. Because
it was a lot of money.
A lot of money for him. And what we paid, it's absolutely ridiculous. So Liverpool's business there is exceptional, because at the end of the day, I don't rate him at all, to be fair, and I don't think he's done well for Bournemouth. I mean, that could change. He could come into it and find his way. I mean, he is now starting to get first-team football, which is the first time, so could that be the case? But, I mean, when you say he's got 4 shots on target in 8 games, that's abysmal, really, isn't it?
So for you, who's been the shock player for this Bournemouth side so far?
No, a player which I think we've all kind of touched on and talked about is Aaron Ramsdale in goal. He signed for Bournemouth back in January 2017 for $1 million from Sheffield United. He had no games there, he was just put on loan. But he's came in this season, started all 8 games, he made 28 saves, got 1 assist, and he's just performing well, he's confident, you know, he's a trustworthy keeper, and I think that is something which is so important for teams today, having a trustworthy keeper that you're not afraid to pass it back to him, you're not afraid when he's in goal what could happen. Again, I'm not just relaying this back because I'm a Liverpool fan, but we all know about Lloris Karius at the end of the day. We'd pass the ball back to him, whether it be a Premier League game, a Champions League game. You know, you were scared, you're holding your breath of what's going to happen. Is he going to clear it? You know, what's he going to do? But I think Ramsdale's came in and he's calmed a lot of nerves, and I think for his first season, and you know, they're 10th at the moment, and I just think he's doing a really good job for him, basically. I think he's came in and he's just doing really well for his first season.
Last thing on Bournemouth, do you think they could potentially push into that top 6, top 7 in the next few years?
In the next few years, yeah, I think they can actually. You know, obviously this year, I don't see it this year. I think they need to make a few signings personally. To me, I think they do need to get some more strike force. I know they've got Callum Wilson,
Josh King,
and they've got Josh King. I just feel like maybe they need, you know, a player to come in and really take it by storm. You know, a really good player to come in, whether it be even maybe an attacking midfield kind of role or something like that. You know, to go alongside Fraser, feeding Wilson through. But I feel like maybe they just need someone to come in to really kind of change the team around. But I definitely think it's possible. Eddie Howe's a class manager, and you've seen what he's done so far. So I feel like there's no reason why you can't push him into top 6 in Europe.
So moving on to another team on the south coast, it's going to be Brighton and Hove Albion. So Brighton have had a slow start that many predicted they would have had. No one really had massive expectations from their start to the season. They had some hard games in there, the likes of Chelsea, the likes of Spurs. So they've got Graham Potter as their manager from Swansea. Very, very inexperienced. He's been in, I think it's a Swedish club, Östersunds, and he's moved over to Swansea. He steadied the ship at Swansea. They came down to the Championship. No one really expected much, but he steadied the ship and played a lot of youth, which would have been a massive appeal on his CV towards getting that Brighton Hove Albion job. The highlight of their season so far has got to be that 3-0 win against Spurs. I think it was absolutely exceptional performance all round. I think they're from the back, Lewis Dunk going forward to Neil Maupay and Aaron Connolly, who I'll touch on in a minute. They've all been exceptional in that game, and it really highlighted the spirit this Brighton team seems to have. They're 14th in the league so far, and I think they've given themselves a really good foundation to build on. I still think they'll fall into that relegation battle this season, purely because I don't think they have enough in terms of depth, especially in the attack force. I think if Maupay was to get injured, you'd be relying on Glenn Murray getting all your goals, and we know Glenn Murray knows where the back of the net is, but can he do it consistently anymore? Especially after getting no goals in 7 games, which is a lot.
That's poor.
It's not like Glenn Murray.
No.
We don't see that kind of thing from Glenn Murray. So, have the goals dried up for him? Is it towards the end, or should he sink into the lower divisions? We don't know.
You know what? I just want to quickly touch though what you just said about that Tottenham game. I remember watching that game, and the one thing, the big positive, obviously they won 3-0, but it seemed every time they went on an attack, it seemed like they could score.
It did, yeah, it did.
They were controlling the game, and against Spurs, that's something you don't really see often. And they said they were controlling the game, they were passing it around, they were fluid, and especially near the end, Spurs were all over the place, and they were passing it out wide, getting it in, getting behind the defenders, and again, they just every single attack, it was like, could they grab another? And I think if they perform like that again, I think they could, not only stay up, but I think maybe they could climb a table a bit higher. It's going to be a lot harder, obviously. And as Harry just said, they probably will fall into that relegation battle, unfortunately. Obviously, I hope they don't, but we'll just have to see.
I think, overall, if I was to rate Brighton's season out of 10, I'd go for a 6. I know a lot of Brighton fans are going to be looking, thinking, oh, that's well harsh. I don't think it is. I think a 6 so far is respectable. I'm not going to give them a 10 out of 10 because the likes of Bournemouth and Burnley I'd put in the same category as Brighton. Yes, Brighton fell away to the end of last season, but they're the rest. It's all about being the best of the rest for every team outside that top 6. So I think Brighton as a whole, with the squad they've got, they're in a good position right now. It's just I judged them, and if they were to be in the position they're in now in a few months' time, then that rating would go up. It's just early days. For me, the player that's disappointed is Glenn Murray. We touched on that earlier. He's played 7 games and he just hasn't hit the back of the net, and that's not like Glenn Murray. It's just not like him. Glenn Murray, for me, is a player that if he's in your starting lineup, he knows where the back of the net is. There's a few strikers in our time that have been like that. The likes of Ricky Lambert. Similar build, similar style of player. A player that towards the end of his career actually came on. And there are players like that. There are players, the older they get, the better they are. Ibrahimovic, Llorente, to name 2. You get that at Glenn Murray. He's an older player, but he knows where the back of the net. He's done it everywhere he's gone. But he has been disappointing this season. Maybe it's the fact that he's lost his first team place to Neil Maupay, who, may I just add, I think he's been their best player so far this season. I watched Maupay a lot in the Championship. As I'm a Villa fan, we've been down there for the last 3 years. And he knows where the back of the net is. He's a proper poacher. If he gets the ball in front of your goal, chances are he's hitting the back of it. He doesn't miss. He scored a goal against Tottenham the other day. Proper poacher's goal. Lloris spilled it and he was onto that. He knew what he was doing. He's alert. He scored a very good goal against Leeds last year in a promotion game that Leeds had to win. He went for on goal and took it as calm as anything. Lots of Brentford fans will agree with me that he knows exactly where the back of the net is, and that's what Brighton needed last season. For Brighton last season, they were tailing off horrendously towards the end. They were in desperate times, and they managed to keep themselves up. They had to invest in the summer, so they went out and they bought a striker for 20 million, and I think that was the right thing to do, and they absolutely nailed it by doing that. So, when it comes to the surprise package, I might get a few bits of criticism for this, but I'm gonna go with Aaron Connolly, the lad who came on against Spurs and scored 2. And I'm not just saying this because of that performance. When I went down to the South Coast to watch Aston Villa away at Brighton in the Carabao Cup, they played a very youthful side. They played 3 players who weren't 13 players. Two of them being Duffy and Gaetan Bong. The rest of them were all youngsters. I think their squad numbers were 30 and above. Aaron Connolly was the one that all the Villa fans around me were agreeing stood out. He was running in behind, he was looping in and out. He gave Courtney also a run for his money, I'll tell you that. And he'll drop his shoulder. You saw it against Spurs, and he knows where the back of the net is. That second goal of his, where he killed it in, was brilliant. It showed us a bit of both sides about him. First goal showed us that he can poach when he needs to. He gets in the 6-yard box, he hits the back of the net. But he also showed us that he knows where the goal is from long range. He can curl in, bend round the player, drop his shoulder, beat a man. He seems to have it all. He's a short player, so he's going to have a low centre of gravity. It'll be really interesting to see if we can see Connolly come along in these coming years, because I mean he's got a great foundation at Brighton. It's a decent sized club, and the Amex is a lovely stadium that's quite new, so the club looks to be on the rise if they can stay up, especially with a young manager like Graham Potter.
Well, just touching on him again, really, the performance, as you just said, against Tottenham, obviously not just that, but he brought something new to the Brighton side. I thought very energetic going forward. And I do think that Graham Potter will try and maybe include him a lot more games, especially after those performances.
No doubt about
it. I think we will see a lot more of him this season. Hopefully it will be for the better.
For a position needed for Brighton, I have gone ahead and said a centre-half, just because I think when you've got Duffy and Dunk as your two centre-backs, don't get me wrong, they're both very good players and they've been solid in the last two campaigns, but all it takes is 2 injuries and you're in big trouble, no matter how many goals you put in the net up top. If your 2 star centre-backs are injured, then you're going to need some reinforcement. So if I'm Graham Potter, I'm going to my board and I'm asking for a centre-half. Even if it's just a backup centre-half, I'm still going out there and asking for a centre-half. So moving forward, we're going to go and talk about Burnley Football Club. Burnley are a team that struggled last season. They did. They only just survived, which would have been a massive shock if they had gone down, because we know how good their team is and we know how good a manager Sean Dyche is. Many people blame the Europa League for them. They had such an early start to the season. We've seen that with Wolves this season as well. But let's not forget the Burnley of the season the year before. We know what they can do. We know how good they can be. So Tom, give us a bit of a lowdown.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, the way they're playing at the moment is exactly how they were before the Europa League 2 years ago. I think Sean Dyche is really creating a balanced team again. You know, I really like his style of play actually as well. And I said the team he's building at Burnley and the team he's got and he's developing, I think is fantastic, really. I mean, they're 7th in the league. They've got 12 points. They've won 3, drawn 3 and lost 2. Now, this is the thing, you know, after 8 games, a lot of people can go, well, it's early on. But in 2 games time, you're basically going to be around a third of the season already into it. Now, thinking, you know, a third of the way into the season and Burnley is 7th, you know, I really think if they can keep this up, it's a big task, but if they can keep it up, you know, I really think they can do damage. It's the same with a lot of these other teams, you know, like Bournemouth and Palace, Leicester. But they're just playing so well at the moment. And I think overall, Ashley Barnes, to me, is their best player. 8 appearances, 4 goals. To me, he really is a key threat, especially in the box. And we've seen how Burnley are with their set pieces from corners and free kicks. They're getting a lot of headers in. And they're really attacking, he said, the last line of defence, basically. And they're playing it, and obviously it's working for where they are. And I also think Ashley Barnes, like we kind of said before with some other strikers, he is that striker I do think can get you a goal, really.
He knows where the back of the net is.
Exactly.
That's key. That is key when you're in, I call them the other 16. So every other team apart from City, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, Spurs and Arsenal. You have got to have a striker that knows where the back of the net is, otherwise you're going down. We saw it with Villa years and years and years in a row. We had Benteke for 4 or 5 seasons. He kept us up every season. But what happens when we get rid of Benteke? We go down. You need a striker that's going to score you goals, otherwise you're going down. Bournemouth, Callum Wilson. He's done it for years now. Josh King. They've got strikers who know where the back of the net is. It's absolutely textbook. You've got to have a striker. Look at Brighton last year. The goal soaked up and they plummeted. They nearly dropped. That's why I think Simi Pukki is going to be so crucial for Norwich, because if the goals do dry up for him now, I know he's had a great start, but if the goals do start drying up for him now, they could be in serious bother. So, anyway, carry on. Where did you get to?
So yeah, I was just saying, I know we say it a lot, and Harry said it a lot, about finding the back of the net, and a lot of you may be thinking you're getting fed up with that same phrase, but there is no other way of describing it really. It's about having that goal, that presence in front of goal basically. Not having a striker who has to look up where the goal is, where they are, where the defenders are. When they receive that ball, they know where they're going to put it before they've even got it at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And I know he's not the best in the league at the end of the day, but Ashley Barnes, I do think, has that quality. We've seen it before in recent seasons, and quite obviously we're seeing it now at the moment. Complete opposite to that, Aaron Lennon. Now, he is definitely my disappointing player for Burnley. Now, I know we're going to have to say, first of all, he isn't every game a key starter. Okay, we can see that.
Not at all.
He's not at all a key starter. But this is a stat which really kind of confirmed my decision.
Stands out like a sore thumb, really.
I mean, 7 appearances for Burnley this season, 1 shot. I mean, he's supposed to be this attacking player for Burnley, someone who's supposed to be helping change games, putting in crosses, scoring goals, and he's got 1 shot. This is another stat. He's got the same amount of yellow cards as he has crosses, which is 2.
That is terrible.
I don't think you can get a worse stat than that. 2 yellow cards and 2 crosses, 7 appearances with 1 shot. I mean, quite frankly, I just think he's getting too old now. I don't think he's effective anymore on the wing. He hasn't got the pace to go past the defenders, the fullbacks nowadays. And the fullbacks now are playing so high and they're attacking as well.
And they're rapid, most of them.
Yeah, not only can he not beat them, but he's getting beat by them as well. So I think he's ineffective in defending and in attacking, and quite frankly, either he has to hang up his boots or send him over to America. Because that's the only options for him now, isn't it, realistically?
Or push him down the divisions.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably do a job in the Championship.
Or I've heard Worcester City are looking for players.
I wish.
# Bryn City home.
So, for you, in terms of Burnley, who's been the shock player? Who's been the star?
Well, I'm going to be totally honest here. I haven't got an individual shock player, because looking at their squad, I don't think Burnley have made... they haven't made these huge signings coming in here, coming in there, etc., which are now coming in here to the team and, performing outstandingly, taking the team in control, etc. Burnley have had this consistent squad for the last couple of years, and they've had a few additions, but each of these players are playing to the same level, I think, most games. I think, again, we saw it a few years ago, but these are the same players now, which helped them qualify to the Europa League.
It is, yeah.
And during last season. So to me, there isn't an individual shock player which has made me think, wow, they're playing well. It's as a whole, I look at their team and I think, every single player is doing their bit to keep them at 7th where they are at the moment. So yeah, overall, I don't have a shock player.
If you're Sean Dyche and you're dipping into the transfer market in January, are you going to get anyone? Do you need anyone? And if so, where?
Well, from what I touched on before, I really think he's get rid of Lennon. I think they need a winger.
They've got Dwight McNeil, who is a very, very hot prospect, I think. He's looking very good.
Well, yeah, I do completely agree with that. I do think he is as well, but I don't know. I know they've got Ashley Barnes as well. I just think maybe they need another... A bit like what I said with Bournemouth, I think they need another attacking prospect, really. Because, Ashley Barnes is a good player, but we can't deny he is getting on a bit now as well.
Yeah, I suppose so.
In the sense of he's not
going to be running the channels.
He's not going to be he's not going to be running, getting in behind the defence as much as he could do.
Does that matter when you know where the back of the net is? We see it with Deeney, we see it with Murray, we see it with Llorente, we see it with the likes of Higuain. Wherever they go, they hit the back of the net, but they don't need they use their pace. Some players have this football knowledge and this awareness where they don't actually need to be running in behind. They just know where to stand. They know where to receive the ball. And when they put their laces through it, it hits the back of the net or at least forces the keeper every time. Is Ashley Barnes one of these players?
You know what? Okay, right. I get where you're coming from there. I do completely agree about the awareness, and I do agree there are players that don't need the pace, because I've said it before. I've seen it in players where they don't need it, and where they are, they're in the right place at the right time to get goals. I mean, realistically, you could say Harry Kane. He's not the paciest player.
No, I agree.
But he's in the right place at the right time. I'm just saying, with Burnley and the team they've got, I feel like they've got a lot of teams, a lot of players, bar a few, which are just like steady goers. Do you know, in the sense of they're not, have got the pace. I think with the modern game now of what's happening, you're looking at a lot of pressing teams. Liverpool, one of them. Leicester's coming into it with Rodgers now, especially City. And I feel like with the way it's going, I think a lot of teams now are needing pacier, quicker players, to almost hit on the counter if they need to. But also, when they're making those channels in behind, you still got Barnes to stay in the middle or back post, wherever he is at that time. But I just think you do need quicker players to be able to get in behind defence, make runs up the wing, etc. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's right. The only reason I see them making a transfer. Apart from that, I do think they've got a solid team, and
overall,
they can keep it up.
What are you rating them out of 10 overall?
Currently, I'm realistically, I'm going to say like a 7 or an 8, because
I think it's got to be
somewhere up there, because they're 7th at the end of the day in the league. After 8 games, and I don't think a lot of people would have thought that, especially the season they had last year. As you said, nearly getting relegated, but they're back to where they were. Dyche is getting them back to playing a good style, and I really do think they could do damage. It's just if they can keep it up.
So next up, we've got a team that's a bit strange this season, because they've had a transfer ban, and they've brought in a very youthful manager, a legend in that case. It's Chelsea and Frank Lampard. So obviously Chelsea have had their transfer ban. It was never going to be an easy start to life as a manager at Chelsea for Frank Lampard. He's very inexperienced. He had a decent campaign with Derby last year. He got them 6th, even though they finished 6th the year before. But he did cut the age of their average starting 11 down, and he's got them all the way to a playoff final this time. Their overall review for me so far has got to be, you look at the overall battering they took from Manchester United in that first game of the season. I think a lot of Chelsea fans would have been worrying. I mean, you can't blame them. They've got a young team, a young manager, and the last thing you want as a fan is for your manager, who's also a legend of the club, to be on the ropes. Because can you imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like at Stamford Bridge if Frank Lampard is on the ropes? It's not going to be a healthy one. And we saw that Chelsea can crumble. We saw it in the Mourinho in their last season. Sometimes they can crumble. They're not immune to it. But no. They've played this youthful side, the likes of Mount, Tomori, Abraham, and they've set the league alight, I think. They've struggled against some of the other top 6. So Liverpool, they did struggle against. United, as I just touched on, they have struggled against. But they're starting to catch the eye a bit now, I think. They play nice football. They press from the front. Abraham is joint top goal scorer of Aguero. He's absolutely class. As a Villa fan, I know a lot about him, and I watched him a lot. And a lot of Villa fans did doubt him going into the Premier League campaign. A lot of football fans doubted him going into the Premier League campaign. But by God, has he shown them up, unbelievably. Especially after that Super Cup game against Liverpool, he missed a penalty. A lot of people would have wrote him off straight away. But no. Overall, so far, I'd give Chelsea an 8 out of 10, which a lot of people are probably thinking, how's that licensed after their losses to the Big Six? That's because I think those games against the Big Six, other than Liverpool, which, let's be honest, they gave Liverpool a game. Let's not duck from the facts here. They gave Liverpool a good run-in. They didn't get trampled over by them like some other teams will do.
I completely agree with that.
But that game against Man United, I think that was a bit of a hiccup. First game of the season, big pressure. I think you can write that one off. But apart from that, apart from the game at United, and apart from the obviously loss against Liverpool, there's been a few hiccups here and there. But overall, the football they play and the way they're looking to play is very impressive. And it's only going to get better for Chelsea. They're a young squad, and especially with the introduction of the transfer market to them in the next few years, give Frank a bit of money, and I reckon he could do some magical things with that team. Honestly,
I agree. I just think he's given some time, really.
Absolutely, it's all about time for managers like Frank.
He comes in, they lose first game 4-0. At the end of the day, a lot of people then, as you said, they're thinking, is this the way it's going to be? But as you said, we've
there
seen
would have been a
recent
lot of
games.
Chelsea fans worried after that game. There would have been a lot of Chelsea fans worried.
Recent games you've seen, they're performing again. They're getting back into it. I think their last game, it was a sloppy win, but they got the job done. And at the end of the day, I think you just need to give him time. And I do think he'll start getting the results, and I do think they can challenge quite high into Champions League again this year.
So a player that's disappointed me is Kurt Zuma. The reason I'm saying this is because he's made a few mistakes. He looked out of his depth when he came back, and it's a disappointing one for Zuma because he's a player that when he first broke onto the scene for Chelsea, a lot of people thought we've got a special talent here, but he just hasn't lived up to that name. He hasn't. He went to Everton last year and had a solid campaign. He was at Stoke the year before and he had a dire campaign. But maybe people thought this was his chance. I feel like for a lot of fringe players at Chelsea, this season is their chance, or was their chance. The likes of Reece James, Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount, Fikayo Tomori. If they're going to take their chance now, it's now or never. Then no one's coming in to replace them. And they've got a young manager who's willing to try out youth. They need to take it by the reins, but obviously, Zuma struggled to do that. As for the best player, I think it goes without saying, Tammy Abraham. He looks like a man reborn from his last Premier League campaign at Swansea. He holds the ball up, he runs in behind, he drags defenders with him, and most importantly, he can strike. He strikes it when it's deadly. And he's an amazing poacher. He knows where the ball's going to land. He knows where to get into position before the ball's going to land. And the best thing I like about Tammy, he can use his feet, but he can also use his head as well. He's not like a smaller player like Morpay or someone who's going to cost a similar price tag if they were to buy him last summer. Chelsea took a chance on him rather than selling him to the likes of Villa, who would have been interested, the likes of Villa and Wolves. But they took a chance on him and it has paid off. He's got support within the likes of Giroud. Let's be honest, he will learn a lot from the likes of Giroud. Giroud's been around the park and they're a similar kind of player, same kind of stature. But Tammy's getting all the experience he needs now to be a top footballer. He's only 21 years old, remember? Only 21. So for me, the player that's been a shock so far has been Fikayo Tomori, purely because I knew the lad was good from watching him at Derby last year, but I thought it's different. I feel like it's much harder to come into a team as a centre-half than a striker. Because can you imagine coming in, you've played in a championship one season, you then come into a Premier League defence and you've got people like Aguero, Salah, Rashford trying to run past you like constantly and attack you. That's different. That's a step up from having like some Martin Waghorn and David Nugent going at you at training. You know what I mean? So I think the fact that he stepped up, and obviously him and Abraham have got their call-ups to the England squad, which I think is fully deserved. But no, I think he fully deserves that medal as being like a shock player, 100%. Position needed. I've put here that they could do with a right winger, purely because I think that Pedro may be getting on a bit. Willian, he's alright. I prefer him in the cam role. I don't think he's as good as he was a few years ago. And maybe Frank will be looking at a more youthful setup. We know they've got Reece James coming into right back from their youth academy. He played at Wigan last year and he was sensational. He's obviously got a nasty injury at the start of this year, but if you can get a good partnership at that right hand side, then who knows for Chelsea. I think it's a very, very interesting prospect, and given Frank time, I think he will get those titles and be up there with Man City and Liverpool. I think a lot of people forget that Chelsea do have the funds. They do have the funds to compete with Liverpool and Liverpool and Arsenal, sorry. I think a lot of people do forget with Chelsea that they do have the funds to compete with Liverpool and City. Just because they're not there right now doesn't mean they won't be there come next season. I think they'll be one of the guys in the mix. Now we're going to the south part of London with Crystal Palace, a team that they struggled last year. Let's not hide the facts here. They struggled last year. They lack firepower up front, and a lot of their reliability came through Wilfried Zaha. And a lot of Palace players and fans would have had their hearts in their mouths on that deadline day, seeing if Zaha was going to stay, going to go. Because if Zaha goes, then a lot of your team spirit goes, and a lot of your team ability goes. I mean, it was bad enough losing Wan-Bissaka, but Kelly seems to have filled that role quite well. So, Tom, talk us through your opinions on Palace so far this season, please.
Yeah, so what you just touched on there, I think last season, it's very confusing with Palace because they're playing well, and then they go for a patch last year. You know, all of a sudden they're looking into relegation zone area, and it looks like they could go down. And from my perspective, it's just confusing. You know, what's gone wrong, what's happening? Because Roy Hodgson, we can't deny he's getting old. He's getting on. And it's like, well, how long does he have left in the game? But he's still doing well for him. He's still got a good tactic set up for them. And I still think he's, pushing them forward. I mean, currently they're 6th, 14 points, having won 4, drawn 2 and lost 2. I think the main thing is they're level on points with Chelsea and Leicester. So realistically, they are joint 4th. But it's just the goal difference that's putting them down. And I think when you put that in perspective, last year they're struggling, looking like relegation, and now they're joint 4th after 8 games. I think that is a huge turnaround. I think someone who's really helped that along is Jordan Ayew. I've put him as my best player for Palace so far this season. 7 appearances, 3 goals. He is a huge attacking threat in my opinion, and he really is leading Palace forward. He's made 142 passes, and I think this shows as well, again, he's a striker which not only is helping up front, he's coming back, he's trying to build up the play with the rest of the team. 45 duels won. He's helping out in the defending as well. I think he's putting in the challenges. He's not just a striker which will stay up front, wait for the ball to come to him. He'll get stuck in. If he wants the ball, he'll go and get it. He won't just wait around, he'll press. And I think that's very important for a striker today. Disappointing player for Crystal Palace. There's no other player that you can say than Benteke. I mean, he's pure rubbish really, let's be fair. 7 appearances this season, no goals, 5 shots, 3 on target. I mean, 3 shots on target in 7 appearances for a striker. It's just ridiculous. I mean, we look at his stats from last year and the season before. Last year, 1 goal in 16 appearances. And in the 17-18 season, in 31 appearances, he scored 3 goals. So, that's 4 goals in the last three seasons. And for a striker, you have to say that's one of the worst conversion rates. And realistically, he's probably one of the worst strikers in the league at the moment. And in perspective, that's ridiculous. I mean, Harry, playing for Villa, he's exceptional.
Oh, honestly, he kept us up for years. And it's such a shame to see from a Villa fan's point of view in some ways. Because he was always going to take that bigger move to Liverpool. The potential was always there for him. He was a fairly young lad going into his prime. You can't blame him, but it's just been a sorrow downfall since then. He had 1 good season at Palace. They had 15 goals in their 2017-2018 campaign. But since then, it just hasn't happened for Benteke, and it's a shame really, because Villa fans especially know the damage he can do when played with right.
So, my shock player. Now, this isn't a player which realistically, it just came in this season. He has been there for the last few seasons, but to me, he's really performing well, and that is Martin Kelly. Now, the reason I've chosen him, I know some of you may be laughing or thinking, why have you chose him? But Wan-Bissaka has left, he's gone to United, and they have got a huge gap to fill, really. He was exceptional at Crystal Palace last year, but I feel like Kelly came in, and I really feel like, he's filled that hole, and although maybe it's not his natural position, or he doesn't play exactly like Wan-Bissaka, I feel like he is really playing well. 6 appearances, 2 clean sheets. I just feel like he's absolutely started at the back, but he's a leader at the end of the day as well. I feel like he's controlling the defence, he's organising the team well. So that's really why I've chosen my shot player, just because of the way he's came through. He's took on the role of Wan-Bissaka, now he's left, and quite frankly, he succeeded in it in my opinion. Now, position needed for Palace. It's just my personal opinion. I feel a centre-back could be needed. Now, the reason I've done this is because realistically, the only other centre-backs they've got maybe on the bench or in spare, etc., they've got Cahill. Now, Cahill, we all know he's getting on. I don't think maybe he's as trustworthy as others. He hasn't got much pace now. I feel like maybe they need another centre-back just to add security to the team. Especially with the likes of cup matches. I feel like for the sort of teams like Palace, when it comes to cup matches, it's a lot harder, because obviously with the cup matches, that's their chance for silverware. But then let's say they're in a position where, they're quite near the bottom and they need the wins in the league.
They want
to rest the players.
It's a dilemma, isn't it?
They want to mix it up.
It is a dilemma for the likes of Roy Hodgson.
They need to have their strong team for the league, and they want a strong team for the cups as well. But then, do you look at Gary Cahill as your main centre-back in an FA Cup match? Because to me, I don't think he's a strong player anymore. So, that's really why I think they should invest in that position. Another position which I'm thinking is a centre forward. The only reason I'm saying that, I know Ayu's playing well, but that's at the moment. Go forward 3 months, will he still be in the same form? Honestly, probably not. If he drops form, realistically, they've got Zaha and Benteke. Zaha's a class player, we know that, we've seen that. But is he really going to be to the heights that he's been after his failed move? We know...
He hasn't started the season that way, I can tell you that. He got an assist last game against West Ham, to be fair. But is he going to possibly get to the heights he was at last season? I don't know. Maybe give him a bit of time. Maybe it worked perfectly for Palace. Maybe Ayu's form will drop off when Zaha's rises. You just don't know. But what I will say for Palace, and as you touched on earlier with Benteke, I think if Benteke finds form, which who knows when that could happen, if that could happen, Benteke finds form, they've got one of the best strikers in the league.
That's a bold statement.
I genuinely think Benteke finds form, he gives you everything. He holds the ball up, he knows where the back of the net is with his head, with his foot. Honestly, I think the fact that he gets so harshly abused is really, really unfair. I think it's just a bad... I know it's been for a long time now, but the bad form he's been under, he's shown that he can do it in the Premier League for years. Just give the man a chance to get form, I guess. But...
I mean, you know what? I do agree with you in that sense. I understand where you're coming from. I just find it difficult. I don't want to touch on this for too long, but realistically, I'm just trying to understand, where is it? What's going wrong in his game at the end of the day? Is it...
Trying to overthink things, maybe?
I don't know. Is it the players that are feeding him? Is it the style of play that Hodgson's playing? I just don't know. Because, we can't deny. You've
got to remember... Right, so here's my theory with Benteke. I think that he was under his best under Paul Lambert, Tim Sherwood, and Sam Allardyce in Palace. Do you think there's a similarity between those three managers in any way? Maybe that they're more old school, maybe more Route 1?
Yeah. You know what? I do agree with that. I do think probably their style of football is maybe get it up to the striker,
which I think is
hold it up and get it. Basically, just get it forward. Maybe that's right. Maybe Hodgson playing with the wingers and instead a lot more pace. It doesn't suit Benteke because maybe he is a slower player. I don't know, but we can't deny he's had opportunities he has not took. A classic which we were talking about earlier, where he took the penalty off Milivojevic last season and then missed it.
That's shameless. You can't do that.
I don't really know who thought he was doing that anyway, but personally, that I think is a weak point for Palace. So to me, centre forward, centre back is a position which they could invest in. If they keep it up, I do think they could get top 10, pushing top 6. I don't think right now, but in seasons to come, if they do invest, they've got a good squad and it could happen.
Right, moving on to the next team, and what can we say about Everton? It's just been one of those stories that you can't quite believe with the amount of money they spent. So basically, Everton, they're not in the best form ever, are they? They're in the bottom 3 in this international break, and overall, the start of this season for Everton has been nothing short of embarrassing. As Everton go into the international break, they're in the bottom 3, with poor results everywhere they look. Their bright spot this season has come in the form of a victory against Wolves, but apart from that, you can't really see anything too great. They lost to Villa when Villa were out of form and needed a win in a game where they should have took their chances. They have continually dropped points everywhere they go. I think it's an absolute joke. For me, the thing is with Everton is that they're not clinical enough. They should have signed a striker, an established striker this summer. They signed Moise Kean, who, yes, he's a good prospect from Juventus, but he was never going to come in and hit the ground running and score 15 to 20 goals a season that Everton are going to need to push into that top 6. Because let's be honest, as an Everton fan, that's what you're expecting now. The amount of money you're putting into the club, that's what you're expecting. But he was never going to get them those goals. And then you look at their other option, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Is he ever going to be good enough to bang 15 to 20 goals a season? I don't think he is. I really don't think he is. But no, I just think for Everton, they're signing quality players every transfer market and they're spending big every transfer market. Why haven't they backed it with a high quality manager? Why? They've bought Allardyce in, they've bought Koeman in, they've bought Marco Silva in. Why not burst the bubble and give a big manager a big project. Marco Silva has not proved anything other than a failure at Hull, a failure at Watford, and now proven to be a failure at Everton. Get rid of him, get a manager in that's going to be top class and turn this club around, because the opportunity for Everton is all there. As a manager, you're looking at clubs who you could take on a project. Everton sticks out like a sore thumb. They're the ones. They've got a new stadium on the horizon. They've got a big fan base. They've got players who are top quality. They've got one of the shining lights of the Champions League last year in Moise Keane. One of the big youngsters in Europe that everybody wanted. It's just that they were willing to pay the money. Alex Iwobi, they've signed from Arsenal. Yes, a lot of criticism, but now he's going to get first-team football every week. There's got to be a manager out there who can turn around his game. I think there's quality there. There is quality there. But overall, rating out of 10, I'd give them the 2. I don't see how you can't. They've been nothing short of dreadful. Listening to Talk Sport a few weeks ago after the Villa game, Tony Bowery nailed it perfectly. They've got the quality there as well. And when you've got the quality in the squad, where's the excuses? They start to run out for the manager. Andre Gomez, Barcelona player, quality. When he's on his game, he's quality. Gylfi Sigurdsson, quality. Morgan Schneiderlin had years at Man United at the highest level. Quality on his day. Lucas Dean, quality. Seamus Coleman, Yerry Mina. We're talking about international footballers here. Someone has got to come in and sack Marco Silva and get in a better manager. Give them a good manager and you'd see them thrive, I'm telling you. They've got England's number 1 goalkeeper between their sticks. I mean, the potential for that football club is unreal. I think a lot of Everton fans and neutral fans would agree with me there. A player that's disappointed so far, I went for 2. I've gone for Michael Keane and Morgan Schneiderlin. I think that Schneiderlin just looks lacklustre when he plays. He looks like he can't be asked. He treads around the pitch. He doesn't look like he can thread a through ball. He looks a million miles away from the player we saw at Southampton all those years ago that United signed him for. I think he's just one of those players that's gone missing. His career in the Premier League is looking like it's going to be over very soon. He got a red card earlier this season as well. And he just looks like a player that cannot be bothered. And as a fan, there's nothing worse. You pay your money, you go through the gates every week, you spend a fortune, and when you see a player treading around the pitch like Schneiderlin does, it would infuriate me. Another player I chose was Michael Keane. I think the man's full of mistakes. Yes, he may be low on confidence, but you're at the top level. It's inexcusable. Wesley absolutely bullied him when Villa played them. He got bullied. He looked lost. Him and Yerry Mina look like they can't communicate with each other. I mean, there's no security there in front of the keeper. I just don't see why they can keep taking chances on him. I think Mina's been alright, but I think Michael Keane has been nothing short of dismal. Best player, I really struggle to choose the best player, but I'd have to go for Luca Dean, purely because it looks like he cares. He knows at the back of the net is from a free kick. He scored one earlier this season. But still, I only choose Luca Dean because he's a player that looks like they're showing intent. He'll drive forward with the ball as much as he can. He'll track back as much as he can. And he'll always have a go from a free kick. He puts in a good delivery as well. But that was a very, very hard decision to find a best player because overall they've been woeful. Player that's been a shock package, I just put N/A. Not applicable, because I genuinely don't think there's been a shock player. Has anyone came for the ranks and took the league by storm? I don't think so. They've got 2 top goal scorers with 2 goals. I mean, if that doesn't say it all, I really don't know what is. For position needed, I mean, if I'm the Everton owners, the amount of money I'm putting in, I'm feeling sick right now. I've got a nosebleed. But I'd go for a striker. I think Moise Keane will be one for the future, don't get me wrong. I think he'll thrive one day. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, his time's running out for me before he gets shipped off on loan or even gets bought by a championship club. I just don't think the quality's there. I don't think the quality that everyone thought he had is there. He's had chances. He has had chances. And this year was his chance to nail down a spot. And he's failing to do that in my eyes. I don't see what warrants him to start. He's got a few goals here and there. But nothing that's screaming out to me, start me. So overall, yeah, 2 out of 10 for Everton. I think a lot of Everton fans would fail to not agree with me there. It's been an absolutely woeful start. So, We're going to move on from Everton, which obviously it's a bit of a dull story there for any Everton fans, but we're going to go to one of the teams that has been a really, really good story for the Premier League, I think. It's a club that everybody loves because of what they did a few years ago, and that club is Leicester City Football Club. So, Tom, what are we saying about Leicester?
Just a few facts and stats for you now. So, Leicester, obviously, they're fourth in the league on 14 points, won 4, drawn 2, and lost 2. Scored 14 goals and just conceded 8. Now, to me, this is a solid start, and Brendan Rodgers really is creating a pressing, fluid team. And I feel like he is using his knowledge from both Celtic and Liverpool to create this team. You know, they seem comfortable on the ball. They're controlling possession. I mean, their performance against Newcastle at home when they won 5-0, that's probably up there, probably one of the best performances all season from any team in the league. Unlike the other teams like Palace, you know, when you're saying about Palace, could they keep it up? I don't think maybe they can, and it's going to be a lot harder. With Leicester, I do think they can keep it up. They've got the quality of players in Vardy, in Maddison, in Evans at the back, in Schmeichel in goal. And if they do, I really do think they can push Man City, Arsenal. And again, I can't say for Liverpool at the moment. Obviously, I don't know how well they're going to do. They've got the lead at the moment. But, you know, I still think they can push Liverpool as well at the top of the league. You know, push them to keep winning, because I really do think Leicester can push for definitely top 6 this season. I'm going to go out on a limb and even say Champions League if they can keep it up. Now, for me, the best player in their squad, some people might not agree with me here, but I put Johnny Evans. Now, the reason I've chosen Johnny Evans, to me, he is a solid centre-back. He's played exceptional, I think, every game this season. He's got the second most passes in the whole of the Leicester team, and I feel like he perfectly fits Rodgers, you know, like kind of playing out the back tactic. He's a good leader on the pitch. He's experienced, and I think that's crucial really for the team. They've got a lot of young players coming in, and I think to have that experience and to have someone quite level-headed at the back, I think is crucial for the side. You know, watching the Leicester-Liverpool game the other week, the first half an hour, yeah, I can read, you know, we were dominating the game. And I'm not just saying this, but I was looking at the back two of Evans and Sunku, and I'm thinking, are we going to actually break through these? Luckily we did. But, you know, I did question it, because at the end of the day, they were playing exceptional together at the back. You know, and they're bullies really at the centre-back. You know, they don't let their forwards, you know, just easily run past them or turn them. You know, and I really do think they're solid, and quite frankly, I think they'll be vital for the rest of the season for Leicester. Now, on the other hand, disappointing player. Looking at their team, I thought this was really difficult. I don't think there is a disappointing player.
I agree. I think they've been quality so far.
At Leicester, there's no individual player which I can look at and go, you know, you haven't performed, you haven't done this. So, I've chosen Perez. Now, the reason I've done this is only because of when he has come off of the bench, etc. So, he's made 7 appearances so far out of the 8, most of the time coming off the bench in games. But if you're looking at when he has come on, he's had no impact on the game. He hasn't scored. I don't think he's made an assist. And quite frankly, you know, he hasn't made the impact which probably you'd want him to.
Very hard decision, though, because a lot of Leicester fans would argue he comes on and he brings a different style of play to the game. But it's such a hard choice because they've been exceptional.
No, I completely agree. I'm not saying Perez is a bad player at all. You know, he does come on, you know, and I do, you know, he probably does, you know, kind of change it around a bit. But I'm literally just going off impact, goals. You know, he comes on, he hasn't scored yet in 7 appearances. So that's all I'm going off. It's very hard. I mean, otherwise, again, if you look in that situation, you could say, well, Brighton, 5 appearances. He hasn't had an exceptional start for when he has came on.
Gave away a penalty the other day against Liverpool.
You know, that's exactly. So that's probably the only 2 I could say. But apart from that, Leicester have been amazing at the moment. Now, shock player, I think everyone will agree with me here, is Soyuncu, the centre-back. Now, although he was there last year, he didn't play at all. Now Maguire is gone, he's came in, and that is some big boots to fill at the end of the day.
And you know what? I can't help but respect Leicester for that. They've lost Maguire for a substantial fee of
They put trust in
million.
him at the end of the day.
And instead of slashing that cash around for some stupid money, they've maintained that cash and they've backed their man that they signed last season for fairly cheap in how much he'd be worth now. And he has looked solid.
You know, exactly. I've got some stats here that I wrote down, and they completely just agree and show his talent he's got. So in 8 appearances, they've got 2 clean sheets. He's got 1 assist, 51 duels won. Now this is the stat for me: 443 passes. That is the most in the whole of the Leicester team.
Does that not say a lot about the way Rodgers wants to play as well?
Exactly. It shows he wants them to play out the back. He basically, quite frankly, the reason Leicester are doing so well, Rodgers is matching Leicester to Liverpool and City at the top of the league. Because that's the way we're all playing at the end of the day. That's the way Guardiola wants it. Klopp, he's starting to, he's doing that now with Liverpool, with Van Dijk and Matip. And that's what Leicester's doing with their centre-backs. And it's working at the end of the day. I mean, I've also got here, he's got 17 interceptions and tackles. And, he's just a very influential player. He's coming here. He's grasped this opportunity which he's had with 2 hands. And he's proved to Rodgers, he's proved to the fans, he's proved to the club that, this is his place and he's not going anywhere and he's staying here. And alongside Evans, I really think they're forming an exceptional centre-back partnership which they can expand for the rest of the season. Now, the last category really I can go into is the position needed. Now, I put a lot of time and thought into this, and quite frankly, I don't know. That's the honest answer. I don't know where really they can improve. I think I said they've got a good defence. They've got a good midfield. They've got Maddison in those. Again, he could have been my best player because he's playing exceptional at the moment, getting many assists. He's an impact player, a bit like Vardy. How many Vardy's scoring at the moment? And I'm not sure if you think anything, Harry, about players to go for.
I think if I'm Leicester, I'm possibly looking at getting a reinforcement centre-half purely because I think Wes Morgan is very old now. And I think if Johnny Evans, who is at an age of 31, possibly more susceptible to injuries, if he was to pull his hammy and be out for a few months, I wouldn't trust Wes Morgan and Soyuncu next to each other. I'd want a backup centre-half who's going to do the job, because that could easily be the reason why Leicester fall off from the big race for the top 4. It could be because of injuries. Like, again, I say, that centre-half position, it's vital in the modern game, isn't it? You can't just get away with it anymore. You need a player that's going to be able to play the way you want to play. Rodgers clearly wants to play at the back. What if Soyuncu gets injured? What if Evans gets injured? The way you play changes. It's not just the centre-half, the defensive positioning, the defensive ability. The whole way you play is suddenly scrapped and you've got to rebuild it from the start. Wes Morgan ain't going to play out the back like Soyuncu is. You know what I mean? So, apart from that, I can't really differ with anything you said. So, we're going to move on from Leicester and talk about the current league leaders, and that's Liverpool. So, obviously, we saw Liverpool win the Champions League last year. Their squad, in my opinion, and in many people's opinions, is nothing short of exceptional. The way they play, the way they press, I genuinely think this year could be the one. Who knows? We'll have to see. They seem to be getting that kind of look that title contenders want. That late point against Leicester where Brighton took down Mane and they scored a penalty to claim 3. There you go. It's a perfect example. On the same weekend where City lose to Wolves. But obviously, Aki, you're a Liverpool fan. You watch them every week. What's your opinion?
Well, it's a perfect start at the end of the day. I did not think we'd be in this position. Now, I'm not just saying that being winning 8 out of 8. I'm saying that being 8 points clear at the top of the league. I don't think... I can't remember. When was the last time a team was 8 points clear at the top of the league after 8 games? I think we've been very fortunate with the injuries Man City has had, which has put them at a disadvantage, which is shown in the results. But quite frankly, we've had an outstanding start. We're fluid. We're showing aggression. But I think the main thing for me, which is really coming through, we're winning games convincingly, but also we're winning them ugly. And I think that is what you need. I think Liverpool in a lot of years, we've dominated games and we've won them, but then we've also had games where we can't break through and we've lost 1-0, or it's ended a draw. To me, that is why we lost the league last year. We drew to United, we drew to Everton, we drew to West Ham, and we drew to Leicester in the space of 2 months. And that's what let City catch up. But this time, we're getting the results. You saw the other week, we played Sheffield. We won 1-0 because of a Henderson mistaken goal, thanks to a Wijnaldum volley. Went through his legs. We got the 3 points. Champions League just gone. We played Salzburg. We at the end of the day, we threw away a 3-0 lead, which is disgraceful. But we did then get the goal to win 4-3. And at the end of the day, it's those things winning ugly, you need... Realistically, that's what makes a good team, in my opinion. If you can win convincingly and also win the hard way, and if it's scrappy, then that shows they're willing to dig in. They're willing to put their body on the line, go in for the challenges and just get the result, basically, at the end of the day. But to me, all aspects are performing: the attack, the midfield, the defence, the goalkeeper. We're unbeaten at Anfield in 2 years, and this is a good stat. 17 consecutive wins. We won off City, and next game is United. Now, to me, this is a crucial game against United.
For both teams.
Exactly. United are obviously poor at the moment. We've seen how they've played. They need to win. It's at Old Trafford. But at the end of the day, if we win this game, it's again not only against our rivals at their ground, but again, it continues the streak. It means we match Man City's 18 consecutive league wins. I really think it's pivotal, but on the other hand, it makes me wonder if we draw, if we lose, what effects is it going to have on us? What effects is it going to have on United? You just don't know. The only thing I can say at the moment with Liverpool, from a negative point of view, is 2 things. Number 1 is concentration. I feel like we've lost that in many games. Again, going back to Salzburg, the first half an hour we played, we dominated. It's probably the best performance I've ever seen from our Liverpool squad in the last couple years. But then it was almost like we're 3-0 up, okay, sound, that's fine. Concentration dropped. Before you know it, it's 3-3. And not only that, it's the clean sheets. Last season, I don't think we conceded a goal for about 10 games. This season, we've only kept a handful of clean sheets. We are still conceding every game. That's something I think we do need to sort out. So to me, best player, I put Roberto Firmino. I know a lot of people, and there's a lot of Liverpool fans listening to this right now, will agree or disagree with me, saying maybe Mane should be the best player, or Van Dijk, of course. But to me, Firmino is vital. He may not get all the goals, but he does score, and to me, the main thing, he gets the assists. He's not a selfish player, and to me, the reason I think he's one of the best strikers in the league is because he does what other strikers don't do. He helps back and defend. He drops back as almost like a cam, and he just helps the rest of the team. I feel like when he plays, we play to our best. He makes us fluid when we play, and he just joins us together. I feel like when we start with maybe Origi, I feel like we're just not the same. We're missing that extra spark which links us together, and I feel like Firmino is that person who, as you said, basically just puts us together as a team and brings us together. And quite frankly, I feel like he's vital for the rest of the season. My disappointing player, now I put Joe Gomez. I found it quite hard looking at a player in the team who was disappointing, because I think the whole team is playing exceptional. Now I know it's harsh maybe on Gomez, putting him as disappointing as he isn't playing because he's on the bench, but quite frankly, I think that says it in itself. He was number 1 centre-back alongside Van Dijk before he got his injury, and then Matip came in and completely stormed it and played exceptional. Now, Gomez did have his return game in the Super Cup against Chelsea, and quite frankly, he had an absolutely shocking game. He had another game quite recently, I think it was actually against Leicester. He didn't play too bad, but again, I do think we do miss Matip at the end of the day when he does play. So he's my disappointing player. I just don't think he's played very well this season from when he was. Maybe it's because he's come back from injury still, maybe. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, the way Matip is playing, he is being kept out of that squad, and he's not coming back in. And quite frankly, I would choose Matip over Gomez every day of the week.
10 out of 10 rating for Liverpool so far this season, in your opinion?
10. It has to, you can't not.
It has to be 10.
You can't not give a 10 at the end of the day. People can say, they're not perfect, this, that. But at the end of the day, we are 24 points at the top of the league, unbeaten. No one can argue that. There's going to be United fans raging at this, but at the end of the day, we're getting back on the perch. And I really do think this could... I'm not saying it actually on the podcast. I do think that we could do damage this season at the end of the day. Yeah, I know, I'm not saying it. I've got 2 more things. So my shock player, I've got 2. I couldn't decide between the 2. I've got Joel Matip, because of how well he's playing. I mean, he got Player of the Month last month. I think he's exceptional against alongside Van Dijk, and I just think he's calm, he's control. You see him; he loves to go on those little runs, and he just helps the attack. He doesn't play sideways; he plays forwards. I think that makes a change really in a defender. So yeah, I chose him. I also chose Adrian. Mostly because, he came over, he's took over from Alisson's role, and we're 8 out of 8 at the end of the day. He hasn't played bad. He's making saves he needs to, and I don't think really, maybe one goal he's had to blame, which was against Southampton with Danny Ings, and that was it. So I think he's been very influential, and realistically, when Alisson does come back, we owe Adrian a lot because, he's keeping us to where we are at the moment. Now, position needed, I found was quite difficult because I wanted to go through and look realistically, where could we improve? And I was very torn. I was thinking of almost like a striker, a backup for Firmino. But then I thought, well, we have got Origi, and he proved himself last season. I think it's unfair to start buying these extra players when we see the quality Origi has. So looking, the only position I could see was a left back. Now the reason I've said this, Robertson to me is the best left back in the league, possibly Europe as well. But if Robertson does get injured, who have we got to replace him? And the answer is nobody, quite frankly. If he does go, we'd have to put Milner back there. Milner is not a left back. Otherwise, it's bringing up a youth player like Larouci, who's only played a handful of games in pre-season. So I do think we need to strengthen maybe in that area, because if Trent was to get injured, for example, we could push Gomez aside. He's played there before. The only other position maybe I'd say was a midfielder. However, you could argue as well, we've still got Keita and Shaqiri. For some reason, I don't understand why Klopp doesn't like them that much. Like Shaq really that much, sorry. He doesn't seem to play him. I'm not sure of his style of play or what. I'd love to see him get some more game time. And once Keita's fully fit again, I think he can do some damage as well this season and really help out in our team. But overall, yeah, going back, 10 out of 10 so far. Can't get a better start. And hopefully if they keep it up, I really do think that we can go far in this in the league.
Next up is a team that moves on perfectly from Liverpool, in my opinion, and that's Manchester City. So City's season seems to be going well as they look to pursue a start to the season that would lead them in good stead on a charge towards a third consecutive Premier League title. Something that is very, very hard to do, and only Manchester United have done it before, so it would mean a lot to City to replicate their neighbours' achievement. A shock loss to Norwich City and a shocking loss to Wolverhampton Wanderers recently has summed up City's start to the season. Not only that, a controversial draw to Spurs as well leaves them 8 points behind leaders Liverpool and in a very dangerous position with the likes of Laporte and Bernardo Silva out, one for alleged racist tweeting and the other for an injury, two of their key players from last season. Who knows? This could be a very dangerous season for City. Only Arsenal are 1 point behind them now. All it takes is a few bad performances because we know how light the defence is. You got Fernandinho at centre-back alongside Otamendi. Not his natural role. Personally, I don't think Otamendi's a great defender. So I think City are in a very, very vulnerable position right now and could easily let Liverpool slip. They could easily get overtaken by Arsenal as well. The Wolves game was just pure not taking their chances. They could have had that game killed, but they didn't, and that's just the way it goes. And now they're 8 points behind, and they've got the gap to close again like they did last year. So a rating out of 10, I'd go 7. I think that's warranted. Let's not take it away from City. They're a very good side, and they've had some good results so far this season. Obviously, the losses against Norwich and Wolves was the low points, but I think there has been high points, and I think a lot of City's preparation and focus will go down to that Champions League campaign. It's the one they want. It's the one Guardiola wants, and it would not surprise me if they put all their effort into that. They've won the league enough times to build on it. I think that's going to be Guardiola's look, hence why I think it could be Liverpool's year. Players that have disappointed me so far, it's got to be Otamendi. Every other centre-back is injured. It's his chance to step up and show them a reason why they paid that price tag, and I don't think he's warranted that so far. I mean, you look, against Wolves they lost 2-0. What can you even say? He's meant to be their main man now, and he's not living up to that at all. I really don't think he's living up to that. But what can you say with Otamendi? He's always been a walking mistake in my opinion. Very fringe player. A player that potentially isn't living up to the amount of money they paid for him. And the reason that I wouldn't have started him, I would have always gone John Stones and Eric Laporte. or John Stones and Vincent Kompany, or Eric Lamport and Vincent Kompany. So, yeah, I don't rate Otamendi highly at all. Their best player for me is Raheem Sterling, 8 goals in all competitions. I think since Guardiola's come in, we've seen a different side to Raheem Sterling. I think he's absolutely quality, drops the shoulder, gets other players involved, he gets an assist here, there. He knows where the back of the net is as well. The chances he used to be missing, he's no longer missing, he's taken them. You can thank Pep for that, I think. Improved his overall finishing game. But no, he's carried on from where he was last season. I think Raheem Sterling is a bit of a revolution at City. He's up there with the best in the world, and he needs to push into that top 3 bracket now by improving and improving and improving. I think he's got the resources to do that as well at City. He's got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne behind him, Riyad Mahrez on the wing. I mean, all the chances he needs to get people to set him up on a plate, they're there. The opportunities are there. Going on to my shock package, I went for Riyad Mahrez. I think Mahrez is a player that's looked fresh and alive since he's come back into the team. He almost struggled to get in the team last season a lot, but we saw a goal in the Champions League and a free kick against Everton, which led them back onto a lead actually, and was a crucial 3 points in the end against Everton. That I think sums him up really. You know what Mahrez is. You know what he's about. He'll cut in on from the right hand side onto his left foot and bend one into the corner. And if he doesn't do that, he'll thread through a beautiful pass. He can cut in there, cut in left, cut in right, fake shot here, fake shot there, send the fullback all over the shot. You've just got to give him that time and that space, and he'll perform. So when you get a fit Mahrez up to full speed, I think he is a very, very dangerous player. I think when you talk about a position needed, it goes without saying a centre-half for City. Goes without saying. Eric Laporte is the biggest loss they're going to have all season. Even if it's not a great centre-back, it needs to be a centre-back of a decent of quality that can step up until Laporte's back. Because even when Laporte is back, he's not going to be the player he was in September, just straight away. He needs time to get back. And if you're fighting for a title, you need good centre-backs. They've currently got a centre defensive midfielder playing centre-back with another centre-back who I just don't think is good enough. So it'll be interesting for City. I really think they're going to struggle to hold this title, but it'll be interesting. Overall, 7 out of 10 for me. Right, so moving on from Manchester City, it's their neighbours over at Old Trafford, Manchester United. Obviously, United are in very dismal form. They're very close to the relegation zone. And they look like a club that's out of thoughts right now. They're out of plans. So, Tom, what are you thinking?
Quite obviously they're having a very poor season so far, which is lovely to see. They're 12th in the league on 9 points. They're 2 points off relegation. And yeah, quite frankly, the thing is they've got no threat at the moment. They just don't seem to have I don't know what the word, like the power in the team, which is getting them over the line. I mean, we can't actually have a go or criticise their defence at the end of the day, because after looking at some stats, we found United have actually conceded the second least in the top 6, just behind Liverpool. And I think that just shows maybe the effect that Maguire's had also with Wan-Bissaka. But going forward, they just don't seem to put the ball in the net. I mean, I really do feel like, I'm just going to get into it now, position needed, it's a striker at the end of the day, a centre forward. If they really want to challenge, go forward, I say challenge, but the position they're in, if they want to get into the top 6, realistically, they need to get another striker or someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, Marcus Rashford, I just don't rate at all. I saw a stat the other day saying he scored 48 goals in about 179 games, which is actually worse than Nicholas Bentner at Arsenal. And he's been so poor this season. Otherwise, they're relying on Greenwood, who's 18, or Martial. Now, at the end of the day, the pressure that Greenwood would have up front, thinking, right, I'm the attacking threat, is ridiculous. You can't put the pressure on someone like that. The only player at the moment who I'm seeing as Manchester United's impact player, so my best player, is Dan James. He's 21. He's came from Swansea, up from the Championship. And I think, I don't want to say this, but, to come from the Championship up to the Premier League to Manchester United, when realistically, one of the greatest teams in England, and be their best player. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he's their top scorer, scored 3 goals. He's made an immediate impact, you know, from himself on the team. You know, seeing the first game against Chelsea, you know, he seems ruthless, but he's passionate about the club at the end of the day. You know, he wants to play. He's showing energy in his games, and I think that's key, and I think that's something we are not seeing in the rest of the Manchester United squad, and that is why he, at the moment, is separated from everyone else. I mean, the complete opposite, as I just touched on, Rashford and Lingard, I have put as my disappointing players at the team. Now, the reason I've done this, I said Rashford, he's just not scoring at the end of the day. Yes, he's still young, and there's still a lot to improve, but the way he's performing, you know, it's not good enough. We've seen how he can perform. You know, once he gets into a rhythm of things and he gets in a stride, he is a quality player, but the question is, when is he going to get in that form? Because, quite frankly, United need that soon. You know, they play Liverpool next. If they lose that next game, and some of the teams below them obviously get the results they want, United could face going into the relegation zone. Now, you know, realistically, that is just absolutely ridiculous. They should not be in that position. You know, they should be in the top 4 at this point. You know, and I know that a lot of Manchester United fans are going to be very disappointed and angry at the moment. I still believe that appointing Ole was a complete wrong decision. I thought it was a passion move.
But wasn't it right at the time? Wasn't it right at the time?
At the time, I mean, at the time when he joined to when they appointed him, if they made a league from that point, he took the most points and he was the best manager in the league up that period. As soon as he was appointed as a permanent manager, you know, they just started to crumble at the end of the day. And again, I do believe it was a passion move. It was a bit like...
I always thought that Ed Woodward's hand was forced.
In what way?
Because the results were going so well. And Tommy is passionate about he is passionate and thinks that the United players thought Zidane was coming in. That's what he thinks. He thought that in that run that Solskjaer had, they all thought that Solskjaer was not going to get the job permanently and that Zidane was going to come in, hence why they all upped their game. And then when Zidane didn't go for it and Solskjaer got the job, the performances started to decline massively. I mean, I know it's a bit of a rash point, but you can understand why he thinks that.
I understand that, and yeah, he was getting the results, but realistically, you know, can you tell me, in his history of being a manager, what success has Solskjaer had as a manager?
He's had no success, but can you blame the United board for taking a chance on him?
I'm not saying you can blame him, because he was getting the results at the time, but when they look back on it, they know, realistically, it was the wrong decision. I feel that they should have kept him to the end of the season and see how he did until the end of the season, waited until, you know, June, July, etc., and then made the decision, do we keep him or do we get someone else in? That's my personal opinion of what they should have done. But at the end of the day, he's there at the moment, and you know, he's willing to change the club. He knows what he wants to do. It's just the players. Does he have the players to do that? I'm not too sure. Now, shock player for Manchester United, in my opinion. I mean, this is just difficult. So again, I've just put Daniel James because he's their best player and the shock player. He's came up again from the Championship. I don't think anyone expected him to do as well as he's doing. I don't think anyone expected him to be the best player in the squad at the moment. But you look at the rest of the team, there's no one in that United team who has performed and me thinking, you know what, you know, he's a good player, he's really performing well, I'll take him, etc. I just don't see it anywhere really in the whole squad, so I've had to put James as their shock player. But overall, I'm giving Manchester United so far probably a 4. A 4, a 4. I was going to say a 5, but at the end of the day, 2 points of relegation. The lead between them and Liverpool is ridiculous already. I mean, they're not making that up. You know, 8 games in, and their title chances are gone, basically. And I think in that situation, you know, that kind of thing needs to change. So I'm not sure if it will or not in the upcoming games, but we'll just have to see. I think United will pick up form again. I think they will get top 6 this season, but at the moment it's just a rough patch they're going through. and we'll just have to see basically when it ends.
So after United, we're heading north, very, very much north, to one of the only sides in Tyneside in the northeast at all who's got Premier League football right now, and that's Newcastle United. So dull and drastic, that's the words I'd use to describe Newcastle's start, but I'd also say there's light at the end of the tunnel perhaps. Steve Bruce's Magpies they've had a dull start to the season. But let's not forget this. They've also beat Spurs and United. Whereas they've lost games here, there, everywhere, they have beat Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, which is no easy feat. You know, I think the introduction of the Longstaff brothers as well, the local heroes now, the purchase of Andy Carroll on a free contract, he's a local hero as well. Steve Bruce being a Geordie. I almost feel sorry for Steve Bruce because him taking over from Rafa Benitez was always going to be the impossible job, was it not? I think the way Rafa got them playing was they were punching above their belt. He got no money to spend, and when he left, Bruce got given 40 mil and bought a striker who I think has been nothing short of disappointing. I think he can't be anything short of disappointing because he's hit one goal, and for a £40 million striker, you've got Wesley getting criticised at Aston Villa, who was worth half the price. So I think Bruce's tactics have come short in some games, like that 5-1 loss to Leicester especially. I think that's disgusting. I think it was 5-1 or 5-0?
5-0.
But it was disgusting either way. So you've got to look at these things and weigh up. Where does that compare? Losing 5-0 to Leicester to beating Manchester United 1-0. I mean, one's completely humiliating, but one's something you look back on for years and years and years. Rating out of 10, I'd give them a 4. I mean, yes, they got a few results which have pushed them up the league against United, especially recently. But you got to look at the overall picture. And they're an established Premier League team. They're not a fresh team into their Premier League. They're an established team. But I think with a better manager, if you'd have given Rafa Benitez 40 mil to spend, I think you get a different result right now. I genuinely do. I think Bruce was the wrong decision, and I think he was just a yes man for Ashley. I genuinely do. I don't like the way Mike Ashley runs their club. I think I'm one of the few football fans that hate seeing any club run badly, whoever they are, because I think it's wrong. I think that the 50+1 rule in the Bundesliga should be the way we do it in this country. Many people will disagree with that, but I think it's wrong. I genuinely think it's wrong how a man can kick around funds with a football club like a toy. Like, I don't like that. If you give Rafa Benitez the money they spent on Willem at left back, the money they spent on Joe Linton at striker, I honestly think that it would be a different story and they'd be up there. Rafa Benitez saw Newcastle as a project. He stuck with them through the hard times in the Championship and got them back up and kept them up. I just think it's a real shame that Ashley let him go and didn't back him. But, you know, that's just how it is. For their best player, I think it's got to be Fabian Schär. We saw this last season. He's a leader. He's becoming an icon up there. It would not surprise me if you've got a few big teams sniffing at him next season. It really wouldn't. He shows composure on the ball. He gets himself in the way of blocks the defence. Looks like he can win a header. Not just that though. As a defender, you need to be a good leader naturally. You need to be pushing the players out. And alongside Jamal Lascelles, I think there's a real good partnership there to be found. I genuinely do. Both of them are very decent players, but Fabian Schär, no. If Newcastle were to go down or finish just above the relegation zone, it would not surprise me if he was to move on. And as a shock package, it wouldn't surprise many people to say that I've gone for the Longstaff brothers. I think they've been a revolution. We knew about Sean last season, but his brother Matty played his debut in the Premier League against Manchester United the other week and scored. If anyone saw their interview after the game, you'll know that it was quite heartwarming, to be fair. And it's what you like to see in modern football. With all the money that's flying around, hundreds of millions of pounds being spent on footballers, and then you've got two brothers from South Shields doing what they do. And I think it's absolutely brilliant. They've been a revolution. Hopefully, they can get a partnership going and push Newcastle up the league a bit more. Overall position needed, regardless of signing Andy Carroll. Andy Carroll can be injury prone, and he's got to hit form. So I would go for a striker. I think Joe Linton's failed in front of goal so far. He hasn't really done much. And as I've been saying throughout this podcast, you need to hit the back of the net and have a striker who's going to get a lot of goals if you want to stay up, if you're from the other 16. And it's vital Newcastle do that. So, moving on from Newcastle, I think a team that we're going to go on to next grabbed the hearts of many when they beat City this season. But around that, it's been pretty dismal, and that's Norwich City. Tom, what are we saying?
Now, as they came up to the Premier League, I think there was a lot of mixed thoughts, really. A lot of people weren't sure what to think, how they were going to do. But the way they started the season, you know, I thought quite positively of Norwich. I thought they could do quite well. First game against us at Anfield, yes, they did lose 4-1, but the football they were playing was attacking football. You know, I can't deny, second half we struggled. At the end of the day, we didn't even score second half. Quite frankly, second half they won 1-0 thanks to a Pukki goal, and I thought the style of play that they're doing, I thought was almost matching the way that the top 6 teams play in the league. I don't really understand kind of how it's gone wrong or where it's gone wrong, but they've had a really big dip in form. They're currently 19th in the league on 6 points, 1-2, drawn none, and they've lost 6 games. It's going to be a long season for Norwich for them to kind of get back into this, get back up there. But I think the player which can do that for them is Teemu Pukki. Now, he's scored 6 goals so far in the league, and I really think he is the player which can help them get out of this. He has played well this whole season so far. He's making the runs in behind the defence. He's clinical in front of goal. We've just seen a handful of his goals so far. You know, he's an exceptional player. We can't deny it. You know, he's the same in the Championship. And I feel like Norwich need to keep him, and they need to use him effectively. Because at the end of the day, if they want to stay up and make an impact in the Premier League, he is the answer. Now, disappointing player. I've chosen Michael McGovern. He played one game and goal, against Villa, and he conceded 5. Now, Harry, obviously, you were watching this game. You must have been thinking, you know, this is great at the time.
I felt bad for McGovern, because let's not get it twisted. Most of the goals were good goals. He just looked a bit shaky, and I think Norwich fans would agree with me. He looked a bit shaky. There was times where he'd come for the ball, and it would possibly look a bit... He didn't want it. There was a chance with El Ghazi where El Ghazi should have probably scored when McGovern was spilling it a few times. But look, it was hard for Norwich because there's been a lot of disappointing performances, but there's also been a lot of good performances. What I found with Norwich is the players who were playing bad have also had good appearances this season. Overall, it's been pretty balanced. But with McGovern, obviously he's played one game. It was against Villa, and they did concede 5, so the stats don't lie. They do not lie.
Now, shock player for Norwich. I think everyone can agree with Todd Cantwell. Now, Cantwell was a player in the Championship. He wasn't even starting at the end of the day. He wasn't starting. He was maybe coming off the bench every now and then. And he took this step up to the Premier League. And he really has, you know, he's grasped it basically with 2 hands. He came up and he's performing well. Or near the start of the season, he's performing well. But at the end of the day, he's got 2 assists in the league. And we can all remember his goal against City he scored. So I really think, you know, he's making an impact to come in from not really playing any games in the Championship with Norwich straight up to the hardest league in the world, in my opinion, facing some of the top teams like Man City, like Liverpool, you know, and rising to it. I really think that shows not only the type of player he is, but the type of character he has. And it's that type of determination which I think they'll need to help them stay up, basically. Now, finally, position needed. I think we can all agree a centre-back is probably their priority for January when they're looking at it. You know, the way they're playing at the moment, that really is their key. I mean, their last couple games, they have not been playing well. Again, we go back to that Villa thrashing at home. You know, that's just not good enough, quite frankly, is it? To be able to lose 5-1 at home is ridiculous, really. I think the centre-backs they've got at the moment aren't maybe strong enough. I feel like Norwich just needs someone to come in, sort out the defence and become a leader, really, on the pitch to show them what they should be doing, where they should go. and really someone to come on, just help them find where they are and find their feet in the league. So that's my personal opinion of what they need. At the moment, Norwich are not doing very well, and you can only really give them a 1 or 2 out of 10 their season so far. I don't want to see them go down. I want to see them stay up, so hopefully they can turn it around.
So, moving on from Norwich, it's Sheffield United. So, Chris Wilder's men have not failed to impress this season, let's be honest. And they've had a strong start on a low budget. Their overlapping centre-backs have dazzled the league, and they've looked competitive in every game. If they can maintain this form, they should be fine, in my opinion. And let me just get this straight. Chris Wilder is one of the greatest managers right now, English managers, I think. He's a Sheffield United lad, bit similar to Dean Smith and Villa. He got them up last season playing the right way. They've got a very, very British squad. I think they've got one player in their squad that's not British. Their squad harmony must be absolutely amazing, but they do things right. And as for the overlapping centre-backs, my God, that tactic is incredible in my opinion. They bought in Ollie McBurney in the summer. They bought in Lys Mousset. These are some decent strikers. I think if you've watched McBurney play at Swansea, you'll understand where I'm coming from. The lad knows where the back of the net is, and it'll be interesting to see if he can pursue and improve further on down the season. As for the rating out of 10, I'd have to give them an 8. I think compared to Norwich and Villa, they've done very well. They've took their chances, and they've also got a draw against Chelsea after being 2-0 down, which, let's be honest, was a massive result for them. It was very, very deserved. A player that's disappointed, it's got to be Ravel Morrison. Lots of people saw this as another chance for Ravel Morrison to get a go in the Premier League. I mean, he's a player that everybody has thought had potential but never worked out because of an attitude problem. And he just hasn't got the game time. He hasn't got the game time that everyone thought he was going to have. But it'll be interesting to see whether he can come into the team at some point this season and take that position by storm. But who knows? I wouldn't get my hopes up. He's obviously a player that's had a lot of issues throughout his career. But I'm a bit disappointed that he hasn't got a chance that many thought he would have. As for the best player, it's got to be Ender Stevens. The lad started with Sheffield United in League One. He joined from Villa at youthful age. He's now 27. And he took that position at left wing back by storm. The lad's quality. He can score a goal, he can assist a goal, he can drive forward, and he can fill in as a centre half. He's got it all. He's a big lad. He won't take no messing. He looks like he's bulked up in recent years compared to what he used to be. He used to be a frail, small lad playing for Villa. He's bulked up. He was very good in the Championship last year. And he's just another British lad, isn't he? I genuinely think that their squad of British players really helps them, team chemistry-wise. I mean, they all know each other. They can all speak the same language. There's no language barrier there. And I think that goes to hand in hand with my shock, really, and that's John Lundstrom. John Lundstrom has came in, and not many people thought that he was going to have the season he's having. He hardly played last season for Sheffield United in a long Championship season, but he's already scored and got an assist. I think he's one of the players that's looked more aggressive and more passionate going forward, and I don't see how you can doubt him as being their shock package. I really don't. You'd expect the main man to be Billy Sharp or say Ollie McBurney, but no, Lundstrom has played that position well, and he's joint top goal scorer, so you can't really doubt him for that. If I'm Chris Wilder dipping into the market, I'm definitely looking at a backup centre back or a midfielder, because I rate O'Connell, Basham and Egan, but if one of them was to get injured, two of them were to get injured, then they might be a bit light at the back. So if I'm Chris Wilder, I'm definitely having a dip in and looking at a backup centre back, or possibly a midfielder, just to give Fleck, Duffy and Lundstrom that bit of support and that bit of boost. So next we're going to be looking at the Saints. I mean, Southampton, they've been in the league for a few years now. I say a few years, probably longer than most people think. It's been more than 5 years since Southampton came up, and they've established themselves. They really have. They've had a few rocky years since Koeman left and since Pochettino left, but overall, Southampton are looking stable again.
Yeah, they're looking stable, but unfortunately at the moment they're not as stable as they probably would have liked. I mean, they're 17th, 7 points, 1-2, drawn 1 and lost 5. I mean, for a club like Southampton, and as you just mentioned, the way they've been in the last few seasons, it's not what where they want to be at the moment. They're not performing as best as they can. I mean, they have got some results so far this season, but it's just not good enough at the end of the day. You know, losing 5 games, that is crucial for them, and if they don't pick up the pace, they will be in a battle at the bottom half of the table. And I mean, you know, we can't deny that we haven't seen that really last year or the year before, but they have been able to pick up the form, so, you know, hopefully we'll be able to see that again. Now, personally, best player I put as Danny Ings. He's had 8 appearances so far, 3 goals and 1 assist. Now, the reason I put Danny Ings as well, you know, recent years, we've all seen it. He's been so unlucky with injuries. And then when he actually gets back from injuries, obviously he was at Liverpool. But, you know, we had realistically had no chance at Liverpool in the sense of the players that are already there, the likes of Mane, Salah, Firmino, then Origi, and then, you know, the introduction of other players. You know, he wasn't going to get that opportunity to be able to play. So I think for him to go back to Southampton, you know, was definitely the right move for him. I think even last season, I still don't think at Southampton he maybe got into it, but this year he definitely has come into his stride. He's playing like he wants to, you know, and I think he's really making an impact onto the club. He is their leading man at the moment, but he's getting goals. You know, it's getting to every week now. You see him on the score sheet, or whether it's making assist or just having an impact on the game. And not only does it make me feel good for Southampton that they've got a striker like that, but it just makes me feel good for Danny Ings. I think he's been waiting for something like this for years. And again, with injuries, it's so horrible to see a player get set back with all these different things. So it's nice to see him finally on top of his game. Now, for my disappointing player, we've put Vestergaard in defence. Now, the reason I've decided to do this is just... It's maybe not an individual performance, but he is, at the end of the day, the main centre-back in their defence. And they've conceded 15 goals in their 8 games. You know, they've lost 5. And at the end of the day, he's just not making the impact in the defence that he should be. You know, I feel like Southampton, I know I've said it for quite a few teams tonight already, but he needs to be commanding that defence. You know, he needs to be making an impact, setting the mark. Like the Laporte, like Van Dijk. I know it's really showing the different levels here, but I'm just saying that should be someone who he should be aspiring to and who he should really be basing his game on. I feel like at the moment, basically he's quite weak, and I just don't think he's strong enough for Southampton if they want to get back into stride. Because of this, for position in January, I did say maybe they should be looking into another centre-back to strengthen the goal. Because of this, I thought in January they should be looking also, you know, at centre-backs to strengthen the team. We've also seen 3 errors leading to goals in their team this season, again, which just isn't good enough. I also, however, said they should maybe get another winger. This is because they should maybe get someone a bit more pacier to go up and down supporting Ings and the other strikers. I think if they do this, they really can give themselves a chance of staying up. Now, the shot player for me for Southampton, who I thought has played very well in the games he's played, is Djenepo. Djenepo's played very well in midfield. Although he's only made 3 appearances for the Saints, he has scored 2 goals. Now, to me, this is something which the Saints need for the rest of the season. Someone who can come on and make an impact. I think impact subs are very important, and especially the position they're in, they need someone who can come on and change a game. So I feel like for the rest of the season, we're going to hear his name said a lot, basically, and I think he is going to be part of the Southampton squad a lot more, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see him on the team sheet. So overall, Southampton, I'm probably going to have to give them, again, quite low, maybe a 3 out of 10, mainly because, you know, they're 17th, they've lost 5 on 7 points, you know, so it's going to be a big task, but if they can do it, I do think they can get back up there and stay up for this season, but it's going to be a really tough journey.
So, moving on to probably the most controversial of recent times, the club that has been all over the news, front page of the newspapers, front page of the newspaper websites, front page of every sporting website within the last few weeks, and that's Tottenham Hotspur. Spurs have had such a turbulent season that you can't really work them out, to be fair. They've had losses to Newcastle, to Leicester, and recently their loss to Brighton was an absolute hammering, 3-0. They never looked like scoring. They looked like conceding every time Brighton went on the attack. I'll tell you what, Pochettino, his job's on the line. Okay, he got them to a Champions League final last season. Fair play. That was something to build on. They've suddenly got this attraction. Every player in Europe would have been looking at Spurs thinking, okay, they're doing something here. Now, it's like, all that's gone. They're doing so poorly. The rating I'd give them nothing more than a 5. I think, yes, they've won the games they've had to win, but the games they've lost are poor games. They're not losing to the Big Six. They're losing to the rest of the league. What's going to happen when they play the Big Six? They drop points against Arsenal as well. 2-0 up, drew 2-2. I mean, you can't be doing that. Pochettino has got to watch his back, because if he doesn't, he will get the sack and Spurs will get a serial winner. Because the one thing Pochettino did last season was get them to a Champions League final. And guess what? That means that the squad has definitely got the ability to do that. Therefore, when Spurs aren't performing, guess whose shoulders it falls on more heavily now? Pochettino. In fact, they even gave him money in the summer to reinforce his position. So, I'll tell you what, he's got to watch his back for me. So I'll give him a 5 out of 10, no doubt. I mean, I don't see how you can give them anything less than a 5 out of 10 because they have got the results. I don't think you can give them any higher than a 5 out of 10 because they've lost the games to the teams they had to beat. Leicester, Brighton and Newcastle, you've got to be beating those teams, especially Leicester now, because Leicester are going to be in that mix for top 6, I'm telling you. So that's very poor. Players that are disappointed for me, could have been a whole range of them, but I've chose Lamela and Eriksen. I think that Eriksen's not looked interested since that Villa game, first game of the season. He came on and made the impact, yes, but he openly wanted to leave in the summer. He said it. So I really don't think he's been a performer. He really hasn't. He looks lacklustre on the ball. His passes are all going stray. He can't beat the first one from a corner. As for Lamela, it goes without saying, I will never understand Pochettino's obsession with the bloke. I'll never understand it. He loves Lamela like it's his son. I mean, he brings nothing to the game for me. He's just really scrangly and gets fouled every now and then. That's all I see in the bloke, honestly. So, I can't see what the appeal in Lamela is. For best player, I play Winks. Some Tottenham fans may disagree. I just don't see who's been better. They've all been terrible. Kane's not looked like he's putting away his chances. The two centre-halves for Tonga and Alderweireld have looked all over the place, especially in that Brighton game. Lloris had a howler at the weekend before he got injured. I just think, look, Winks does his job. He carries the ball from the back, drives forward. Yes, like the rest of them, he may not be in the best form of his life, but he's better. He's the best of a bad bunch at the moment, I think Harry Winks is. The shock package for me, Kyle Walker-Peters. I think he's looked very good at right back, but obviously an injury has tarnished his start to the season. Overall, though, he looked very good. He looks like a good prospect. Something that Spurs need in that right back position after losing Kieran Trippier, because I don't think that Serge Aurier is as that level. I think he's a walking red card, a walking yellow card. He can't really drive forward like Trippier could, put a cross in like Trippier could. But Kyle Walker-Peters looks young, looks energetic, looks useful. He's got legs on him as well, he can run. So that'll be interesting to see what happens to him in the future. He may be pushed up further down the pitch, I don't know. Position needed for Spurs, I think there's loads. Right back for sure. I know we just praised Kyle Walker-Peters, but he's young. He's a young lad. Is he going to claim that spot straight away? We don't know. Whereas on the left, they've got Danny Rose and Ben Davis, two substantially cemented figures in that Spurs team. CDM, I mean, Wanyama they've got. Is he up to the task anymore? And Ndombele, I think, is pushing more forward. Eric Dyer, I don't see what the appeal is in Eric Dyer. Is Eric Dyer a useful footballer? I'm afraid I don't think so.
I really don't like him as a footballer.
I
think he's.
I struggle to see what he brings. I really do. And the central attacking midfielder as well. Purely because Eriksen doesn't look interested in who's going to feed the goals. The likes of Kane, Moore, or Son. Ali looks useless now. What happened to the Dele Alli of those first 2 seasons? He was incredible. He now looks not interested.
Quite frankly, to me, Dele Alli now looks like a championship player. He's not a Premier League player, and he's obviously really not at the moment. I just think he's just underperformed. When he has played, he hasn't played well, and yeah, he's definitely not at the level that he was a few seasons ago. And if it keeps going, at the end of the day, he's going to get moved on, and it's not going to be at a better club.
So, next up, it's Watford, and it's nothing short to say that Watford's season has been disgraceful. Tom, hit me.
Wow, quite frankly, they're rubbish. I mean, they're 20th in the league. They've got 3 points after 8 games, drawn 3, lost 5, and are yet to win a game. I mean, looking for best players, it's a struggle, I'm not going to lie, because quite frankly, there isn't any. I mean, I've put down Roberto Pereira. He's got 2 goals and 1 assist. And that's basically about it, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I can't even say he's, exceptional playing well, because no one is in the team, but out of everyone there, as we just said with Harry Winks before, Pereira is the best of a bad bunch, quite frankly. I can't quite understand what is going wrong at Watford. I mean, they just don't seem to have the drive, the determination. They're not playing as a team. I still don't agree with the changing of the managers. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, it's just not going right at the moment. Disappointing player. I've got Foster in goal. I mean, he's conceded 20 times already in the first 8 games. Now, I'm not saying, instantly, wow, they need a new keeper, because I still rate Foster as a keeper. I think we've seen that in recent years. Yes, he is getting on, but he's still a decent keeper. He's ruthless. He's got experience. Quite frankly, to me, although I think he has been to blame for some of the goals, it's the team he has in front of him which aren't performing. That ball at the end of the day has to get through the strikers, the midfielders and the defenders before it even gets to him. And they're not performing, they're not working well as a team. As a result of that, for the position in January, I mean, realistically, you could say everywhere, but I've put centre-back because we've seen how influential a centre-back can be. Again, I'm not linking this back, but with Van Dijk, he came in, he changed the team. I'm not saying Watford are going to get a Van Dijk player, obviously, but if they can just get a centre-back to come in who's got that quality, then I really do think it could change their season around. But it's going to be a very big task, although it's only 8 games in, being 3 points from 8 games, that's a big task, quite frankly. The shock player, there isn't any. There's no player in that team who I've looked at and thought, wow, you are playing well, I didn't expect you to play that well, etc. So for me, for the shock, I've just put how bad they've been after reaching an FA Cup final. That is something which I don't really understand. So, last year, they didn't have an amazing season, but at the end of the day, they did reach the FA Cup final. Yes, they got thrashed by City, but they did, they had to beat the teams to get there. And considering you've gone from FA Cup final to bottom of the league, struggling, and, it's going to be a huge challenge. So I hope they keep with the manager now, and I like Watford as a club, and I really do hope that they can somehow find a way to keep up, but it's going to be hard, and I think they really need to invest in the sections, such as the defence, etc., maybe even another attacker, to be able to sort those problems out. So Watford out of 10 this season, it has to be a 0.
So next up, it's the boys from East London. It's West Ham. Obviously, after they moved into the Olympic Stadium a few years ago and lost the likes of Slavan Bilic as their manager and lost Dimitri Payet in the same year, who was their cult hero really. It's been a rocky few years for West Ham. But under Manuel Pellegrini, they finally look to seek some stability. This season, Sebastian Haller, he's netted 4 goals. He looks like a very good striker. He finally looks like that striker that will get them 15 to 20 goals this season. Obviously, they had to go into the market after losing Arnautovic to China. That was always going to have to happen. But Haller, he looks like that player that could fill that gap, really. He looks like he knows where the back of the net is. His movement's very impressive. He knows when to leave the ball, knows how to play the winger in, knows how to use his head, knows how to use his feet. He looks like the complete striker. And West Ham fans will be delighted with how he started, to be fair. I can't see why they wouldn't be happy with him. Alongside this, when you got a guy like Felipe Anderson getting 3 assists, that's all Haller will be loving that. You've got Felipe Anderson on one wing. Pablo Fornal's a young Spanish lad coming through as well. That'll be very interesting to see how he does for the rest of the season, because he's looking a bit fringe at the moment, but If him and Anderson can get playing alongside each other with Haller in between them, then geez, that could be a nasty strike force going forward. But for me, my shock has got to be Mark Noble. Many people will be raising their eyebrows at this, but since he's come back into the team, he just calms everything down. Especially next to Declan Rice, who still is a young lad, he calms everything down. He keeps play ticking, he gets the ball from the centre-backs, and he goes forward. It's classic Marky Nobes. He does what you have to do. So
do you think his experience is playing a key part in that?
Oh, absolutely. Especially, as I say, when you've got a young lad. Declan Rice will do all the running for Mark Noble. But he's young. He's fringe. He doesn't know where to press, doesn't know where to sit back. Mark Noble's been everywhere with West Ham. He's been for the Championship up to the Premier League. He was there that season Payet took them to the Europe. He was there that season that they went down and had to spend a year in the Championship. He's done it. He's been there and he's played the game. He's an experienced pro, and I think that he's really, really key in this West Ham side, even at the age of 32.
Do you think he was unlucky not to get called up in the England squad when he had that prime season? Because I think that was ridiculous.
In that season that he was in his prime, then yes, I understand. He would be disappointed. If you'd have said now, then now. I think he's a bit too late in his career. But you've also got to remember Southgate was looking to youth in that time. Actually, would Southgate have been in charge? I don't know. Either way, we know the state of England. We know the state of England's national side in the last few years, other than, obviously since the World Cup it's been good, but before World Cup, we know the state of it. If he was going to get called up, I doubt he'd have made all the difference in the world anyway. But in this West Ham side, he is the key that makes it tick, I think. Obviously they're 8th, 12 points on the board. You can't criticise West Ham. They've had the start they've had. I think they've had a very solid start. Manuel Pellegrini is an exceptional manager. He's done it with City. He's done it with Malaga. He's done it with Real Madrid. He's done it everywhere he's gone. Done the business, gets the points, gets the trophies. Will he get a trophy for West Ham? I think that's going to be his next step. He'll fight for that top 6 for all he can, but trophies will be on the back of his mind. Every club wants a trophy nowadays. They're rare to come by, especially with the top 6 kind of dominating it all the time. But no, it's a good start from West Ham. They've got something to build on here. Another shout out to a player is a Diop. I think he's a class centre-back. He knows when to go for the tackle. He knows when to back off. Overall class act. I think he's going to be very unlucky not to get in the French squad soon. And another player who a lot of the big boys will be sniffing around for. I think Man United were interested in him this summer. So yeah, it's a really interesting one with West Ham. And I think they're similar to Leicester and Bournemouth. They're going to be looking to break into that top 6, and they'd be unlucky not to. And finally, after a long episode talking through every team in the Premier League, we get to the last W, and that's Wolverhampton Wanderers. Tom, take it away.
Wow, where do we start with Wolves? They had a very poor start to the season. You know, we saw them getting a few losses and obviously many draws, and it did see them in the relegation zone, but somehow after 8 games, they have gone up to 11th place. They're currently on 10 points after winning 2 games, drawing 4 and losing 2. Not only are they doing well in the Premier League though, however, now, they're also doing well in Europe. It could be argued though, however, that the matches in Europe did conflict with their Premier League games, and that is why they were playing so bad at the start of the season. But to me, I think that Adama Traore is their best player so far.
Looks like a man reborn, don't you think?
No, I completely agree. I mean, in his appearances so far, he's got 2 goals, 1 assist. He got a City double the other week. You know, it's his pace, his shooting, he's getting into space. You know, he's dragging out the defenders and making a space on the wings. You know, he's a dangerous player, and I think he is key to Wolves this season, quite frankly. You know, and as you said, you really just sum it up, he is a man reborn. He's come out this season, and he looks completely different. And he's an amazing attacking threat for Wolves. And I think
very fast, very strong.
Exactly. With the other players they have, such as Jimenez, with Neves feeding through, I think if they exploit this, you know, they've had a rocky start, but I genuinely think they can start to find their stride again, like we know they can, and get further. I mean, we cannot write Wolves off at the end of the day. They're a very good side. Nuno, in my opinion, is a class manager. I mean, we saw this. You know, they've just gone to the Etihad and beaten the current champions 2-0 at home. You know, that says in itself, really. For disappointing player who I don't think's played as well, it has to be Connor Cody. The reason I've said this, I think he's had a lot of games this season which have been very poor. For example, the 5-2 loss to Chelsea at home, I thought that was ridiculous, really. You know, you can't be shown like that at your home ground. And then away, 3-1 to Everton. In his 8 appearances, he's had 1 major error leading to a goal and only made 13 tackles. Now, I'm not saying Cody is an awful player at all, because at the end of the day, he's been with Wolves many years now. He's helped them get to the place they are. But the current run of form, these 8 games so far, I feel like he's probably been the worst out of all of them. Shock player. Now, I actually put a bit of a twist on this one. Because of the form they were in, this shock player is a shock player which, instead of impressed me with their performance, is someone who shot me with, you know, basically how bad they've played, and that's Ruben Neves. So Neves has been a key figure for Wolves in the centre of the park throughout the last few seasons, especially last season. We saw his talent in their first season back in the Premier League. But for some reason this year, he just seems non-existent. He doesn't seem influential. I think hopefully we will see him come back and start to get those assists and goals. But at the moment, he's just not seeming to get basically in the rhythm of things. I can't answer why. But hopefully as the results come in for Wolves, hopefully he will also start performing better. For position needed, you know, again, I found this quite difficult. I feel overall they have got a good squad. I genuinely just think they are just in a bad run of form, conflicting with the Europa League game. That's something which realistically they haven't had to deal with before, or, you know, in many, many years. So it's just getting used to it, really. So I say, you know, really they just keep their squad as is at the moment, and I think if they just get back into winning ways, I feel like they can do well this season. And I just think they had a bad start to the season. So overall, I'm going to give Wolves 6 out of 10 at the moment. And we'll just have to see how they do.
So there you have it, guys. 20 clubs, 20 Premier League clubs, 20 reviews of each one so far this season. It's been hard. It's gone on for a while, but we've done it. Obviously, many thanks to everyone who's got this far in the video. I completely understand if you haven't and you're not listening to this right now. But
it's been a long one.
It has been a long one. But overall, just want to thank all our subscribers. Make sure you click that subscribe button for more weekly content. The podcast will be coming back to regular hour time length next week. The Villa Verdict will be coming back during the Premier League season. As well as that, a new series for you Liverpool fans, which I know there's a lot of you listening, the Reds Review.
Yeah, so I'm going to be doing this series. I'm just going to be looking at all general Liverpool matches, whether it be in the Champions League, League Cup, FA Cup, or the league itself. You know, just looking at all the players and performances. So be sure to keep a lookout for that.
But anyway, guys, that's it from me and Tom. Obviously, Tommy will be back with us next week. So all you Tommy lovers, don't worry, he'll be back.
Bean is back.
Don't you worry, Bean is back. But yeah, many thanks. As we said earlier, many thanks to everybody who donated last week to Oscar Saxelby Lee. We put the links in the description, gave that a little shout out. And if anyone went and checked out the hashtag Bring City Home campaign, obviously that would be much appreciated as well. I'll put the links again in this description because all that helps. It's a big cause in our city, so both of those things would be epic if you guys could just do your bit, because I know that we've tried to and many people around the city have. But that's it from us, guys. I've been Harry. This is Tom. See you next week.